Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Welcome, everyone, to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson. I'm filling in for Steve. Today is July 5th, the day after the July 4th holiday. It's kind of an odd day in that I'm working, my crew is working, but a lot of you may be working as well. Usually there's a break here, but Wall Street was open. It was actually a jobs day, and the numbers were better than expected. We had 195,000 new jobs this month. We may talk about that a little later. We've got a great show lined up for you today. We're certainly going to cover, obviously, some of the major news items that have hit. We all saw the news break out last week, just before the holiday break, what happened in Egypt. That was actually building, for maybe 2 weeks. Early in the week, the military in Egypt had announced they had given Mohamed Morsi 48 hours to come to some kind of resolution with the protesters. And this wasn't just an ordinary protest. We're talking about 20% of the population was on the streets protesting. They've been, frankly, disgusted with the government. And what I think this is really about, this is probably more about the economy. The economy is in dire straits there. The only thing they have really going for them is tourism, and that's been on the decline as well. So we're going to have two experts during this program. We're going to have Ambassador Frank Wisner and Dr. Walid Phares. Dr. Walid Phares is a terrorism expert and an expert on Mideast affairs. Now, I'm also going to have to talk about Obamacare. You're probably sick of it. You probably don't want to hear about it anymore. But I've been outspoken about it since 2010. I've been talking about Obamacare and why I thought this would, in fact, implode eventually. I know it's been a big issue for Steve, and it's certainly been a big issue for many of those on the conservative side of the party. But we're going to have to talk about it because what happened just before the holiday break was very telling. The administration punted. And we're now getting the first evidence that Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, which doesn't appear that affordable, is starting to unwind. The president punted. They are now postponing the employer mandate to 2015. Now, that doesn't seem like a lot, but what does it mean? Think of the dates, 2015. It goes from 2014 to 2015. 2014 is the election. They want to keep this, obviously, out of the news. Imagine this unraveling shortly before an election. Be bad news for the Democrats. We're going to have an expert on this. We're going to be speaking to Scott Gottlieb about this. He's from the American Enterprise Institute. I want to get his views on what the president is doing here. I also thought it was, important on this holiday period, Independence Day, it's the day after, to bring in a veteran. You might have seen me in a previous interview on Money News. As you know, I'm one of the anchors here at Money News. I've had Todd Wood in before. Todd is he's not only a brilliant author, and we'll be talking about his book, Sugar, he's also an Air Force Academy graduate. He's a special operations pilot, actually former special operations pilot for the U.S. Air Force, has worked with the likes of SEAL Team 6. Todd is going to be here in the next hour. Last week, I opened up myself to my dating life, all right? I admitted I needed a date. Last year, I broke up with my girlfriend. Well, that's actually a lie. I didn't break up with my girlfriend. My girlfriend broke up with me. I can say that. You know what? It hurt. I went on. I moved on. I'm over it. I decided that to get back on the wagon. Some advised me to go back to Match.com. I did that. I went on my first date. I got some expert advice from Julie Spira. She's the queen of internet dating. We're going to have on Julie later in the program. Also, later in the program, my former boss. We're going to have Mark Volman, founding member of the Turtles. He's on tour. They're on a nationwide tour. He's also known as Professor Flo. We're going to talk about that later. I told you guys that I was a rock and roller. And I am a rock and roller. You're always a rock and roller to the day you die. Once you start, I was the lead guitar player for the Turtles with a host of other bands. But Mark is joining us from the road, and we're going to be talking to him later in the show. We also have to talk during this show about the Zimmerman trial. Now, it's obviously it's captured the nation, and a couple of just passing thoughts from me on this. You know, the other day I was trying to just, look at the news, and I went to CNN, then I went to Fox, then back to Bloomberg, and then I went to another station. No matter where I turned, I was getting a live feed right from the courtroom. So it's obviously capturing the nation, but it kind of brings something to, home to roost here is, the race card has actually been brought up here. And it appears that this is very much about race, at least this trial, or at least the media is portraying it that way. It probably isn't. But if this was a black man who had shot another black man, we probably wouldn't be talking about it. If it was a white man who had shot another white man, I'm certain we wouldn't be talking about it. But the fact that a white or a Hispanic and a black are involved, some would bring up the race card. And who would do this better than Reverend Al Sharpton? You can always count on Reverend Al to stick the knife in the wound and twist it. I can't think of any person who's done more to destroy race relations in this country than Reverend Al Sharpton. You can always count on him. MSNBC must have him on his show as a host because they think it's going to help the ratings. Well, guys, it ain't working. It ain't working. If you haven't seen the numbers, take a look. I'm reading this right now. The ratings are in the toilet. The ratings period has just ended here, and MSNBC had an average of 584,000 viewers. That's a 7-year low. I find that astonishing. But we're going to be speaking about the Zimmerman trial, but I don't want to just talk to a pundit. We've had enough of those. You're going to hear enough about me speaking about it. Let's get an expert in here, and we're going to have James Perfido. He's a criminal attorney, defense attorney from the state of New Jersey. He's also a former prosecutor, and I think that's important because he can give us both sides of the issue. Another thing that I caught, maybe you caught this just before the holiday break. I want to bring it up because I think it's kind of interesting. Nancy Pelosi, just before the holiday break, decided that she wanted to give a little speech before the chamber. And she seemed to equate Obamacare with Independence Day and how our founding fathers would in fact endorse that. I believe that's going to be cut 9. Let's take a look at what she had to say. Let's go to cut 9.
Pretty soon we'll all be leaving for the 4th of July recess next week when we celebrate Independence Day. We'll also be observing health independence. This week marks 1 year since the Supreme Court upheld the Affordable Care Act. It captures the spirit of our founders, the spirit they wrote in the Declaration of Independence.
The spirit of our founders, Obamacare. I don't know what she's smoking. I really don't. But it sounds pretty good. I don't get it. I don't know where she's coming from, but I can't go there. She's way off base on that. I had an idea, just before I wrap up, I had an idea for this show today, and it kind of got nixed. I just wanted to throw it at you. I thought it was would be kind of fun. I decided since it was a holiday weekend, you're probably all sitting in front of the barbecue. Why not get rid of this big, giant monstrosity of a desk? Let's get in a barbecue in here. I'll put on a Newsmax apron. I was told that was a fire hazard. That wouldn't work. My producer, Scott Newman, suggested, why don't we get in a George Foreman grill? I thought that was a good idea. That was nixed. So it's going to be just as usual. So we've got a great show lined up for you. Coming up next, we're going to have Ambassador Frank Wisner to speak to us about what's going on in Egypt and the bloodshed that's taking place there. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Obamacare. President Obama's massive health care law is taking effect this year. With over 15,000 pages of regulations, few even know what it means. Now, the Obamacare Survival Guide by Nick Tate gives you the shocking facts about this law. It's a step-by-step guide on how you can protect yourself. Already the New York Times bestseller, every American needs to get the Obamacare Survival Guide and find out about the new taxes, hidden fees, fines, Medicare changes, business rules, and why doctor shortages are likely. Donald Trump says the Obamacare Survival Guide is a must-read for anyone worried about getting good health care for themselves or their employees. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's at bookstores, or get our special offer at Obamacare911.com and you'll save $15. Go now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com.
Have you ever wondered how you could make a difference in someone's life? What if you could help hundreds or even thousands of children? Students in the U.S. rank 32nd in world math skills. It's time for our children to catch up. Become an owner of one of the world's fastest growing franchises, Mathnasium. Mathnasium is the leading math-only learning center in the U.S. Imagine helping hundreds, even thousands of students in your community improve in school and raise their self-esteem. Call us at 800-676-5216. 800-676-5216.
Obamacare. More than $1 trillion in new costs. Hidden taxes, fees, big Medicare cuts, doctor shortages. How can we survive?
To know Obamacare is to survive Obamacare. The Obamacare Survival Guide tells you everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
We're in the midst of an obesity epidemic, and I'm not surprised. The statistics on obesity mirror an increasing trend of eating out or ordering in. In fact, some people dine out every night, but eating in restaurants is one of the biggest enemies of your heart. When you're in a restaurant, you don't really know what you're getting. And the calorie counts of many restaurant dishes are astronomical. In fact, some single dishes contain more calories than we should eat in an entire day. Eating in fast food restaurants is even worse. A diet of hamburgers, French fries, and shakes constitutes a fast lane to the emergency room. If you really want to help your heart, get in the habit of cooking simple meals at home. Here are 3 easy tips that will make your food taste better than even the best restaurant. Choose the best fruit in season. Your local farmer's market is a great place to start. It will probably still cost less than that pie you were thinking of buying. Get in the habit of using fresh herbs. You can use them in egg white omelets or dust them on the fish you grill or bake. And for a light dessert, choose a square or 2 of dark chocolate that you and your spouse can enjoy. There are lots of ways to make your heart healthy, but there are also lots of ways to damage it. That's why I wrote Fix It, Dr. Crandall's 90-day program. In it, I'll tell you how to kickstart your metabolism every day, how to pick the best diet for you, how to stop hunger from sabotaging your diet, the 7 superfoods for your heart. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I've seen in the media some pictures of demonstrators not only protesting against President Morsi, or former President Morsi, I guess I should say, but also against U.S. President Obama, saying that President Obama allied himself with terrorists, with the Muslim Brotherhood, with a fascist regime, against the ambassador there, Ms. Patterson. I don't know how prevalent that is in the crowd, but how prevalent would you say it is that this anti-Morsi sentiment is also anti-Obama?
It's no secret that U.S. foreign policy is unpopular, not just here in Egypt, but throughout the region, throughout the Arab world.
That, of course, was CNN reporting. That was actually right from the streets of Cairo. That was shortly after the Mohammed Morsi had been ousted there, and it was pretty clear that it wasn't just Morsi that they were upset with. They were upset with some of the stance and the rhetoric they were hearing from the administration. And now there are more developments. There appears that there could possibly be bloodshed as the Muslim Brotherhood has issued announcements that they intend to protest in the streets. There's already been some bloodshed. Let's bring in Ambassador Frank Wisner, who's the former ambassador to Egypt, to get an expert opinion. Ambassador, thanks so much for joining us today.
I'm pleased to be with you.
Ambassador, you've seen the events as they've unfolded just before the holiday break. There was, obviously jubilation, people dancing in the streets. But now it appears that, there's still millions of people that support the former president. What do you think's likely to happen here? Are we in danger of a civil war? I guess that's what I'm driving at.
Well, I think we're in still very, very early days, and you can't predict what's going to happen with any precision. What is clear is the wave of anger against the government that drove Morsi from power enjoyed massive, massive public support, and the many, many millions of Egyptians who poured on the street and forced the military's hand to preserve order and replace Morsi and bring in a new constitutional approach. Now, of course, there's going to be a counter-reaction. There will be incidents. As I understand the latest reports from Cairo and from Egypt, there are incidents in Cairo. There are some in other parts of the country. But we're not talking about millions. We're talking about thousands at best, and maybe even less. So I am unable to predict exactly, but I really doubt that Egypt is headed towards a civil war. I think the overwhelming support of the change is very clear. Second, the army and the police forces are lined up in favor of this change, and that matters a great deal. Many of the political leaders have stepped forward also in favor of the change, and the major religious leaders, the Sheikh al-Azhar, the great figure in Sunni Islam, and the head of the Coptic Church have both stood forward to support the change. So yes, there will be some trouble. The Muslim Brothers do enjoy support, but I don't think it even begins to approach a civil war situation.
Ambassador, when the reports first came out and we saw the jubilation in the street and we started to see the tanks move in, many in the press, including myself, said that this was a military coup. It seemed very careful wording by the president in his statement. The word coup was not used. Could you talk about the significance of that?
Well, we have a law in this country that we designed for a very specific purpose, and that was to discourage adventurous militaries around the world from grabbing power. In this case, in Egypt, I think it's wise, and the president's wise, to go slowly and consider very carefully both what happened in Egypt and what is at stake. For in Egypt, it wasn't a military that plotted the seizure of the government and grabbed it. It was a massive public uprising that, left unchecked, would have produced great violence, would have left the military in the miserable position of having to control those demonstrations by force. The cry from the crowd was they wanted new elections, and they wanted a broader political dispensation that brought many of Egypt's groups together to help decide the country's future, which has been so troubled. That wasn't forthcoming from the Muslim Brothers. Morsi gave a defiant speech, and the military was faced with, genuinely, a overheated situation that could have been violent. I don't think any of us wanted to see that come out.
No.
Now, it isn't a coup in any classic sense, and yet the military played a role in upsetting the government. We have to ask ourselves, then finally, what are the interests of the United States? And here, I think the president wisely has waiver authority and has to make a judgment. Egypt is the largest and most influential country in the Middle East. Egypt is central to peace with Israel. Egypt's fate will influence the course of politics elsewhere in the region. So we want to be very, very careful before we go out and condemn an event that has, by the most recent polling of Egypt's best pollsters, 80% support in the population.
I think you hit on an important point, Ambassador. Two points that I wanted to make. One, I was surprised that, it seems that the Egyptian military certainly has the support of the people. They were waving flags, very excited that the military had moved in, and there seems to be a history of the Egyptian military having the backs of the people. But one of the striking scenes that I showed at the top of this segment was from the streets of Cairo during the jubilation, big signs being held up that were, I thought, very anti-Obama and the administration. Why is that?
Well, the word got out on the streets of Cairo that the United States was supporting Morsi and his government when the overwhelming majority of the crowds in the streets were against precisely that. I think that was, however, an emotional, short-term reaction, though it was very deeply felt that we had taken sides. I thought the president's statement was very clear and extremely helpful.
Ambassador, I'm going to have to, I'm going to have to cut it off there. We are running out of time. We're going to have you back again soon. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Pleasure to be with you. Bye.
You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm, of course, David Nelson. I'm filling in for Steve. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Last year, over 1 million consumers searched lawyer.com looking for a top lawyer, and our traffic continues to grow dramatically. We now need more top lawyers to cover many market and practice areas. Join now and lock in membership pricing for only $59 per month. We have no contracts and an unconditional money-back guarantee. Call now to receive a special radio-only discount where you can save up to $480. If you're a lawyer and you're looking for quality leads, customers to build your practice, you must call right now. 877-314-2657, 877-314-2657, 877-314-2657. If you're a lawyer looking for leads, you must call this number right now. 877-314-2657, 877-314-2657.
This is a referral service. Calls will be routed to an independent referral insurance agency. Do you know the #1 cause of bankruptcy? No, it's not losing your job or running up credit card debt. It's not even divorce. It's medical costs. If you and your family don't have health insurance, just one serious illness or accident could be financially devastating. But now there's good news, really good news. A health insurance hotline has been established to provide health insurance for all Americans, even uninsured Americans with pre-existing conditions. Now anyone can get health insurance even if you have a pre-existing medical condition. I repeat, now anyone can get health insurance coverage. Call now for a free no-obligation quote on affordable health plans available to you. Again, this is a free hotline for anyone, even if you have pre-existing conditions. Protect you and your family from sudden unexpected medical costs. Call the free health insurance hotline right now at 1-800-910-3470. That's 1-800-910-3470. Call 1-800-910-3470.
Here's today's silver shortage update from Lear Capital.
Reports keep coming, the shortage is growing. Twice already this year, the U.S. Mint has run out. Last time this happened, the silver price jumped 40%. It's time to take advantage with this special offer from Lear Capital.
For a limited time, buy 20 new silver polar bear coins and get one free. The only 1.5 ounce coin on the market. It's minted with the finest silver, carries a government guarantee, and is eligible for IRAs. The silver polar bear is available exclusively from Lear Capital. But don't wait. Silver supplies are shrinking and availability is not guaranteed. This offer is limited to a minimum purchase of $5,000. Call right now. 800-634-0482, 800-634-0482. Call Lear Capital now, 800-634-0482.
Accurate portrayal of potential customer experience. Your experience will vary.
I was overwhelmed with credit card debt, losing sleep, worrying about money all the time. Creditors were hounding me night and day, and I didn't think there was any way I could ever get out of debt or get my life back. Then a friend told me about the Financial Solutions Group, and I found out all it took to get started was one free call. They really helped me get my life back. If you're like I was, you could see almost half or more of your credit card balances eliminated without the nightmare of bankruptcy or attorney's fees. And they didn't charge me any settlement fees till they reduced my debt. If you have more than $10,000 in credit card debt, this is your chance to get your life back. Make one quick free call today, right now, to see if you qualify. 1-800-477-6802. That's 1-800-477-6802. Again, 1-800-477-6802. 1-800-477-6802.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show. No. This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back to the Steve Malzberg Show. Of course, I'm David Nelson. You know, every Friday on this show, we try to cover health issues. And we always have on our good friend, Dr. David Samadi. David's with us again. Dr. Samadi is, of course, Vice Chairman of the Department of Urology and Chief of Robotics and Minimally Invasive Surgery at the Mount Sinai School of Medicine. Doctor, thanks so much for calling in today.
Thank you. Actually, we have a little update. As of July 1st, I became the chair of urology at the Lenox Hill Hospital. So.
Oh my God, that is a resume, doctor. That's a it's so long, quite impressive. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You know, doctor, I came across a couple of stories, health issues that I wanted to talk to you about, and one I find really disturbing. All right, you're gonna have to walk me through this, and it's out there, and it says, do men really hit their sexual peak at 18? Please tell me that's not true.
Well, yeah, that's a question that comes up all the time. The truth is that the first part of the question is correct, that, you know, we're all going to have some peak at some point, but 18 is not the right age. It's usually somewhere between the age of 40 to 45 is where the peak of sexual function is. And a lot of it has to do with our libido and interest, and the level of testosterone start to decline slowly over the years. So once you get to your 30, 35, 40s, that's when the peak of testosterone is. And then gradually every year, that testosterone level continues to go down. Now, something we've spoken about in the past, something called andropause or male menopause, is it's a very gradual process. Unlike women, when they get to age of 50 or 55, and they have very sudden menopause, men, it's a very gradual process. And that's why they feel that, you know, they're not on peak and they don't perform. So the big message to a lot of people is, first of all, don't panic. Check your testosterone. You know, there's life out there. And we have a lot of tricks in our sleeves as urologists to be able to help you, whether it's with medication or behavioral changes, behavioral modifications, etc., that we can help you to be able to perform.
Doctor, are you telling me there's life after testosterone? Is that it?
Well, I'm telling you that there's life after age 18. That's for sure.
Okay. So, I guess my big question is: are women aware that my testosterone level is falling rapidly?
They would know, because that you would have a complete change of behavior. You would have no interest to do anything. You just want to watch TV. You have no interest in engaging on the routine things that you used to do. All of your friends are calling to see, hey, let's go, you know, hang out, and you just want to be a couch potato and not interested in anything. That's really what the low testosterone is, and it's almost like what they used to call it midlife crisis. But the truth is that you should always check your testosterone. You want to make sure that you check it in the morning, because the peak of testosterone is around 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, and not check it in the afternoon when it's going to be lower.
That's bad news for couch potatoes everywhere. There was one thing in the report that I did see that I wanted to ask you about. It seems that for women, am I correct in this, that they peak at around 30 years old?
Yes, so there's a little bit of a delay, and obviously in this particular study, they're finding a much younger age, both for male and female, for this kind of sexual dysfunctions. It lags a little bit. It's not 30, it's around 50 or so, and for men, it's around 45. But yeah, I mean, there's some wear and tear as we get older. None of us really function the same way as we were 20 years ago. That's a natural process of life. But the truth is that, you don't have to make a big thing out of it unless it's causing a real major interference with your life. You can't function well, it's affecting your relationship, etc. That's when we would intervene. Until then, we can just watch and see how the process goes. So there's really nothing to panic. That's the bottom line.
Okay, good news. On a more serious issue here, this was kind of interesting, that scientists seem to be able to create a human liver from stem cells, or at least they're working towards that end. Can you tell us a little bit about that, and how close are we actually?
Oh, this is a phenomenal story. I actually covered this today on Fox and Friends, and it got such great attention. One of my colleagues by the name of Anthony Atala in Wake Forest has been working on this whole regenerative medicine. And the idea behind this is that now we're taking the stem cells, let's say from the bladder, from liver, from heart muscle, etc., and we develop more of these cells in a petri dish. Then we have developed something called, a matrix. And using, believe it or not, using special printers. Instead of the ink, we're using stem cells, and instead of paper, we're using this matrix. So you put this through the printer, and it covers it with all these stem cell cells, and you can create a new bladder, you can create a piece of liver, you can create a piece of finger. It's almost like, crazy science, but we're getting there. It's been worked upon last decade or so. We still have probably, I would say, 5 to 10 years to go before you would order a bladder, a brand new bladder. It's interesting because right now, when somebody comes to me as a urologist, they have bladder cancer, we remove the entire bladder and I create a new bladder out of small intestine. If this mechanism with stem cell would grow, and we were able to get a new bladder, that would change the way we practice medicine. That would change the way we do all of our surgeries. It would also change the way the transplant field is going to be looked at. With a shortage of all the organ transplant, now you can get a piece of liver and be able to transplant it. So medicine is changing. It's very exciting, and the stem cell research is progressing rapidly. We're excited about that.
That's staggering news. It's certainly good news for, I would imagine, for those with liver disease. I know there are millions of Americans out there with hepatitis C, and sometimes if there's no cure for them, doesn't always work, that possibly there's a not a liver transplant, but this type of technology might work. I saw another story, doctor, that I wanted to ask you about. This is about a week old, and this had come out. It was kind of a tragic story. New Jersey parents are fighting to get medical marijuana for their young child, and they seem to be coming up against a wall on this. Why is that?
Well, I have my own personal opinion about this and a medical opinion. I think the whole concept of medical marijuana, the way it's taking off in the country, and there's room for so much abuse, etc. There's really no major guidelines or regulation on this. So even for adults, I'm not happy about it. To put a 2-year-old through medical marijuana without any long-term studies, just to take care of some of the symptoms, I think that's really bad news for the society. These kids need to be under real medical supervision. We need to know exactly what the baseline of this, and I certainly am completely against giving medical marijuana to a 2-year-old kid. That's not the way to go.
Well, it's an interesting story. It looks like she has a tragic disease. 15 times a day she's having seizures. But thank you so much for the expert advice, doctor. I can't wait to see you again next week. Thanks for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
That, of course, was Dr. Samadi from Mount Sinai School of Medicine. It's a fascinating story, and it's one that will play out, and it's playing out across the country. Coming up next, I do want to talk about the Zimmerman trial. I don't want to just have a pundit on. I want to get an expert on this. We're going to have a criminal attorney. We're going to have James Porfido. He's a criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor. He's going to be calling in from New Jersey. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
3 a.m. and you're up again for the third time. It's not just affecting your sleep, it's interrupting your daily life. Frequent trips to the bathroom due to an aging prostate is a common concern, but you can now do something about it with Prostate Revive. Doctor-formulated Prostate Revive is an all-natural dietary supplement packed with 15 powerful ingredients, focused on improving prostate health by targeting the two main sources of prostate concerns, rogue testosterone and inflammation. And now, in this limited-time radio offer, you can try Prostate Revive absolutely free. That's a free bottle, a 30-day supply of Prostate Revive, risk-free. Plus, if you call right now, you'll also receive our free report, A Doctor's Guide to a Healthy Prostate. Call now for details on getting your free bottle, plus our doctor's report. Call 1-800-659-REVIVE. That's 1-800-659-REVIVE. Don't be a victim of an aged prostate. Start getting the sleep you need and get your life back with Prostate Revive. Claim your risk-free bottle now at 1-800-659-REVIVE.
Guys, you've heard about Ageless Male, the natural supplement that helps boost testosterone levels within normal, healthy ranges. But now, the best testosterone product is even better. New and improved Ageless Male can help you feel more like you used to in your active life and in your romantic life. Because our upgraded formula has been clinically shown to increase your drive, desire, and performance. That's right, guys. Ageless Male has been clinically shown to boost performance. Cancel your plans this weekend. You're staying in. If you're ready to recapture the drive from your youth, now is the time to try Ageless Male because it's available risk-free. But you must call now. Just call 1-800-460-9790. Be the guy you used to be. Just call 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790. 1-800-460-9790.
Drug, alcohol, and gambling addiction can be devastating for you and your loved ones. Don't let the disease of addiction ruin everything you've worked so hard for. The Treatment Helpline has helped thousands of people just like you take control of their addictions and live healthier, cleaner, and happier lives. You are not alone. Now there's hope. The Treatment Helpline has helped people just like you overcome their addiction. If you or a loved one is suffering from a drug, alcohol, or gambling addiction, let us help you today. Call 1-800-813-9821. Our seasoned addiction treatment professionals can show you how to use your private health insurance to help cover the costs of this life-changing program. Call now and get a free confidential consultation. 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821. Help is only a phone call away. Call 1-800-813-9821. That's 1-800-813-9821.
According to the FBI Uniform Crime Report, there are over 5,000 robberies every day. Your home could be at risk of being burglarized. Don't put your loved ones and valuables in jeopardy. For just over $1 per day, your home can be protected from break-ins, fire, and more. Get the latest home security technology from Protect Your Home, your ADT authorized dealer. Over 6 million households sleep better at night with ADT monitored home security. What's more, Protect Your Home is offering you their latest equipment, an $850 value, absolutely free for qualified customers. Protect your loved ones and home today. Call now for licenses and to find out more. The call is free, 1-800-949-8201. That's 1-800-949-8201. Again, 1-800-949-8201. $99 installation charge, 36-month monitoring agreement at $36.99 per month. Payment by credit card or electronic bank account charge. For new homeowner customers with satisfactory credit history only. Local permit fees may be required. Certain restrictions apply. Cannot be combined with any other offer.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts, and some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured, on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, The Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price by going now to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
The Steve Malzberg Show is just a bit different from the other radio shows. We have TV cameras. Watch the show at Newsmax.com or listen on your favorite radio station. Here's Steve Malzberg.
Just hit decline.
Okay. I need to explain, for those who may not be too familiar with Skype, what's going on here. And look, even the witness is laughing at this point. I think all of these people are calling either the prosecutor or they're calling the witness to say, dude, I see you on TV. It's troublesome here. I'm not sure they're going to be able to actually carry on with this Skype testimony.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm, of course, David Nelson. I'm filling in for Steve today. That's actually a scene that was a CNN, reporting. CNN reporter reporting on the Skype interview at the Zimmerman trial. You know, in all, I guess, in all murder trials, there's some point of levity, and I got to explain exactly what that was. Now, for some reason, the prosecuting attorney. He had a prosecution witness. For some reason, that witness could not come into the courtroom, so they had a great idea. Why don't we do a Skype? And Skype, for those of you who don't know it, it's a great tool. I use it with my son. He's over in Germany. It's a free tool. You can do a video phone call. Unfortunately, people can tap into you can get requests, and it pops up on the screen. They actually had to pull it, and it didn't happen. It was kind of a fun moment at that, and what is a very serious issue. This trial is ongoing, and I wanted to get some, an expert opinion on this. I'm going to bring in James Perfido. He's a criminal defense attorney from New Jersey. James, thanks so much for being with us this morning.
Thanks for having me, David. Good afternoon.
James, you've been looking at this, probably over the last week and what's unfolded. From your perspective as an attorney, what glares out at you?
Well, your timing is impeccable, David, because the state just rested their case, and the defense has now filed a motion for a judgment of acquittal. And what they're asking for is the judge to basically take the matters into her own hands and to make a call to show that the state has not proffered evidence. They've not brought forward the burden of proof in all of the testimony. In fact, the defense argued that the state helped their cause or their defense of self-defense, and this is a pro forma thing. In other words, it's done routinely, and it's rarely granted by a judge, but there were some pretty compelling arguments. But looking at this case over the development over the last couple of weeks, I've seen the state's case just fall apart, and today in particular, I think they expected so much more from the witnesses. We saw the mother of Trayvon Martin testify. I think the state's expectation was she would give emotionally riveting testimony, crying and describing that as being her son's voice on that 911 call. They didn't get it. They called the pathologist, the medical examiner, to testify today, and that was a very interesting banter between Mr. West and the forensic pathologist who testified for the state, and primarily to testify about the cause and the manner of death, but we found out that the pathologist actually took notes. The medical examiner made notes in preparation for his testimony, never turned them over to the state, never turned them over to the defense. So that was quite a cause for some controversy today, and it turned out that the medical examiner was really testifying a lot, trying to fill in the gaps, talking about the duration of Trayvon Martin's life before his death and how emotional that must have been, and that's clearly inadmissible, and the judge moved to strike that testimony. In fact, she sustained the objections.
Jim, I caught that as well. I found that interesting. Doesn't that fall under the lines of discovery, where if you're going to present evidence to the jury, that everybody gets a decent shot at it and gets to look at it?
Absolutely. In the state system versus in the federal system, you have to reveal all of the proffered testimony. In other words, if there's any written reports in New Jersey, notes must be turned over now by investigators. You can't have surprises, and this clearly was a surprise even to the state when the doctor started referring to his notes. He was asked on cross-examination, "What are you looking at?" And he said, "I made some notes in preparation for my testimony." And he said, "Well, Judge, I don't have those notes." And the judge, clearly recognizing that was a problem, took a recess and ordered that the doctor turn over his notes to both the state and the defense.
Jim, let me go back to what you said right at the top when you said that the prosecution has rested their case and the defense is now looking to, I guess, vacate the charge. Is it possible that when they come back in, if the judge doesn't let them do this, that the defense could actually rest their case?
It's very possible, David. That's something I could foresee happening. The only wrinkle I see with that is that I understand, I just found out very recently, that the defense has on their witness list, and they also turned over an expert report from Dr. Vincent DeMeo, who is a well-known forensic examiner, medical examiner, who could testify specifically about the bullet, the entry of the bullet, and also debunk the state's theory, which is that this is a homicide.
How could, Jim, let me stop you right there. How could the direction of the bullet, change the course of events here?
Well, George Zimmerman's given several statements to the police. Interesting, they're all consistent, and the state's own witnesses, the police witnesses that testified, all believed that they were credible statements and they were believable and they were truthful. Very important. But what's important about that particular piece of information is the struggle between Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman. Where did the bullet enter? And I understand it to be consistent with the story that Zimmerman had told the police. So I think the state's idea was that they could show that his story didn't hold up, but I think at the end of the day, their own expert, I think, confirmed. So they may or may not call Dr. DeMeo, and Dr. DeMeo actually wrote the textbook that the state's expert relied upon, interestingly.
Jim, before you go, I want to go back to the the very beginnings of this case, and if I understand this correctly, the three outcomes that could come are one, a complete acquittal, second-degree murder, or manslaughter. Am I correct in that?
That's correct, and of course, lesser included charges, which I do expect. If it goes to the jury, there will be several lesser included charges, like an aggravated assault, simple assault, perhaps. There could be a number of lesser included. Harassment. Those are very minor offenses, though.
But the charge of manslaughter, walk me through this. Second-degree murder. Any chance of a conviction here?
I don't see it at all. In fact, if Judge Nelson were to rule on the defense motion for judgment of acquittal, she could very well, what I would call, bifurcate that ruling. She could say, you know what, I agree, there is no basis to allow the jury to consider a second-degree murder charge because under Florida law it's required that there be evil, ill will, hatred, or spite as in the intent. And I think that was clearly argued by O'Mara that was not there, wasn't present during the state's testimony. So if the judge were going to do something radical, she could get rid of the second-degree murder and let the jury consider manslaughter and all the lesser included.
Okay, now manslaughter is a pretty important charge, is it not? What would be the ultimate penalty in that?
Okay, the manslaughter, well, under New Jersey law, you're facing a maximum of 10 years incarceration. It is a murder, but without the intent. It's a reckless act, passion, provocation. In other words, George Zimmerman was reckless in his actions, so reckless that he was wanton, willful disregard of a human life in his actions. And I don't know that they can sustain that burden of proof, quite frankly, with all that's been testified to in this case. So it's very possible he could get a judgment of acquittal on everything.
Jim, one last thing here. Some are actually saying that the trial may, in fact, already be over. What's your thought, last parting thought?
Well, you know what? David, it could be a gamble. The defense could elect to call no witnesses, and the jury could have this case as early as Monday. And quite frankly, if they call Dr. DeMaio, I think his testimony will be very short and brief, right to the point. And I think that the case will still go to the jury Monday. So my call is that the defense either calls no witnesses or maybe one, maybe two. That's it. They've already established the reasonable doubt in this case that they needed to do, and I think they need to. I don't agree with any defense expert that would say that they would put Zimmerman on the stand. I think it would be a really bad move to do that. So I see the jury getting this case very quickly.
Jim, we're out of time. I'm going to have to let you go, but thank you so much for your expert thoughts here. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you, David. Have a great weekend. Thanks for having me.
You too.
Take care.
Of course, that was James Perfido. He's a former prosecutor, and he's currently a defense attorney in the state of New Jersey. Let me give you a couple of parting thoughts that I have on this. One, first of all, this is a murder trial, and a lot has been made about race on this. We're going to be speaking to an expert about that later on in the program. But again, this is a murder trial, and questioning questioning the credibility of a witness is certainly within bounds. And also, it appears to me that this is a gray issue here. It's unclear here. This is certainly a tragic event that's happened. Some will question, should he have even been there? Some have said that George Zimmerman was a wannabe cop. There's a lot of fuel for both sides of this argument here. But in the end, in a murder trial, all right, it's got to be unequivocal. There can be no doubt here. And this appears very gray. And I would think that in a gray situation like this, that you have to lean towards the defense. Take it or leave it, you have to do that. We'll see what the judge does when this is, of course, over. But coming up next, we're going to be talking about Obamacare. We're going to be speaking to Scott Gottlieb. He's American Enterprise Institute medical expert. This is the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-1530. That's 800-460-1530. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-1530. This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows, pause and rewind live TV, even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV. Cancel the cable, cut costs, and get more. 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV.
If you or someone you love is struggling with addiction to alcohol or drugs, then you must listen to this message because there is hope. No matter what addiction you or your loved one is coping with, you are just one phone call away from real help. Recovery Hotline makes the healing process simple and affordable by matching people to fully certified and experienced inpatient facilities that are right for their personal situations. Call 800-668-1286 now. Don't wait another day. Money does not have to be an issue. Most insurance is accepted. Just call 800-668-1286 today. Recovery Hotline's mission is to help you or someone you love begin the healing process and get back a healthy and sober life. And we can even help with family interventions and travel arrangements. One phone call is all it takes to get back the life you or your loved one deserves. The call is free. The help is real. Call 800-668-1286. That's 800-668-1286. 800-668-1286. Again, 800-668-1286.
Attention, if you've been classified as a high-risk driver due to DUI, DWI, or tickets for aggressive driving and are required to get expensive and hard-to-find SR22 auto insurance, then you must listen to this message because we can help. We're the largest insurance company in the U.S. specializing in SR22 auto insurance and focused on serving the needs of customers classified by the state as high-risk drivers. We help people get back on their feet by providing easy-to-get, low-cost SR22 insurance that anyone can afford. If you need SR22 auto insurance, or if you have it now and are paying too much, you need to call us today for your free quote at 800-836-4606. Our specialists are standing by waiting for your call. We understand people make mistakes, and we're here to help by making SR22 insurance easy to get and affordable for everyone. The call and quote are free. Call us now at 800-836-4606. That's 800-836-4606. Again, 800-836-4606.
This is your Newsmax Now update. I'm Kathleen Walter. Investigators want to know why a California 4th of July celebration turned into mayhem when fireworks started exploding on the ground, injuring more than 24 people. This was the scene last night in Simi Valley, California. Investigators say an accidental detonation occurred at the annual 4th of July show there. 28 people were hurt when witnesses say the fireworks began misfiring into the crowd.
It was almost as if one of the crates that had several mortars on it tipped over.
Some of those injured suffered broken bones and shrapnel wounds, but all of the victims are expected to recover. Authorities are now questioning witnesses and the company hired to put on the fireworks show. There is more bloodshed on the streets of Cairo as supporters of Mohamed Morsi call for his restoration to the presidency 2 days after his ouster in a military coup. At least 3 Morsi supporters were killed when the military opened fire outside the Republican Guard headquarters in Cairo. Morsi supporters protesting en masse today to express their outrage at his overthrow by the army and to reject a planned interim government backed by their liberal opponents.
This was actually the overwhelming will of the people.
At least 16 people have been killed and hundreds wounded in clashes across Egypt since Morsi's overthrow. 80 people were wounded Thursday in clashes between Morsi supporters and opponents in his hometown of Zagazig, Egypt. The White House says the June jobs report confirms a healthy economic recovery, but Republican lawmakers insist the president's policies are holding back job growth. According to the U.S. Labor Department, U.S. employers added 195,000 jobs in June, higher than what economists had predicted, as well as more jobs in April and May than previously thought. The unemployment rate remained steady at 7.6% because more people once again started searching for work. Analysts say the numbers point to a stronger economy in the second half of the year. The Roman Catholic Church will declare the late Pope John Paul II a saint. Pope Francis signed the decree Friday morning. No date has been announced for the canonization ceremony. John Paul II was the 3rd longest serving pope in history. He died in 2005 at the age of 84. And here's a look at what's coming up on your Newsmax Now update. Is Obamacare imploding? Representative Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, explains why President Obama was forced to delay implementation of a key provision of his signature health care law. And history was made this 4th of July weekend at a Coney Island hot dog eating contest. Why the Black Widow of competitive eating was hailed a champion again. That and more next.
Hey guys, do you know your testosterone level? You should. Each year, declining testosterone robs more of your energy, drive, motivation, and even your ability to perform in bed. Take control of your testosterone today. Write this number down because Progene, the leader in dual-action testosterone supplements, is now giving you a free supply if you call today at 800-592-4834. If you'd like to feel closer to 20 than 40 and get back that energy, drive, and confidence, call now to try Progene risk-free. Don't believe us? We'll even prove it works. Ask about our at-home testosterone test kits and see for yourself what Progene can do for you. Be one of the next 100 callers. We'll triple your order and send you a full 1-month supply of Progene for free. A $70 value for only the cost of shipping and handling. Call 800-592-4834 for details. Know your level and kick your drive back into gear with Progene. Call 800-592-4834. That's 800-592-4834. Again, 800-592-4834.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at AftershockVideo.com. AftershockVideo.com.
What is LigNet? LigNet is knowledge. LigNet is power. LigNet is global. Top-level officials, U.S. intelligence officers, national security advisors, foreign operatives, all reporting directly to you. What is LigNet? LigNet is confidential. LigNet is sensitive. LigNet is security. What is LigNet? They're the ones taking the world's pulse. If you're not in the know, you're not on lignet.com. You've been briefed.
And welcome back. The Affordable Care Act is not quite as affordable as President Barack Obama promised. That's why the administration has decided to delay implementation of one of the health care law's key provisions, says Representative Marsha Blackburn.
They are in process of now is damage control. They know that the implementation of the law is in crisis.
The White House announced Tuesday that the mandate for businesses to offer their employees insurance coverage will be delayed until 2015. And finally, Joey Chestnut and Sonia Thomas have defended their titles as hot dog eating champions. Thomas, a 100-pound dynamo known as the Black Widow of competitive eating, wolfed down almost 37 hot dogs. And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, stay with Newsmax.com. This has been your Newsmax Now update for Friday, July 5th. I'm Kathleen Walter. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back, everyone. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm of course, David Nelson filling in for Steve. Steve will be back, by the way, on Monday. You know, I wanted to talk about something. It's summer blockbusters, movies. We love these things. I love them. I've been a movie buff all my life. I take my son to the movies, but it costs more and more to make these films, of course, every year. And we get these big blockbuster movies out there, and I love it. I got to tell you, I love these movies. And I'm an artist. I was a rock and roller for a good part of my life, and I understand that Hollywood has a left bent. One of the great producers, Bruckheimer, said recently, and by the way, he has a new movie out called The Lone Ranger. He said that they feel guilty, and that's probably why they turn to the left. But I saw something, on July 4th, it really disturbed me. Every now and then you can count on somebody from Hollywood just, going off the deep end and just doing something outrageous. Film director and producer Oliver Stone, a great American, is overseas. And here's what he had to say. Overseas, he's speaking in Czechoslovakia, the Czech Republic, all right? And here he is. He's speaking before a film I guess it's some sort of film seminar or something, but this is a quote, okay? And he says this, by the way, on the 4th of July. He says, "The world is in danger with our tyranny," all right? The words of a great American, and he's speaking in, of course, the Czech Republic, a real pillar of democracy. He also went on to say later on at that same seminar, he said, "We need countries to say no to the United States," to say no to the United States. Yes, we need more Americans like Oliver Stone. I can't wait for you to come back, Oliver. A great American, Oliver Stone, overseas, speaking on behalf of Americans everywhere. Another thing that I saw is we've got another blockbuster movie. I mentioned Bruckheimer's movie, The Lone Ranger. This is a mega movie. We're talking about, oh my God, probably $225 million that we're talking about was spent on this movie. Now, what bothers me about this is that Hollywood doesn't seem to have the guts to create original content anymore. They seem to have fallen into a formula. Let's remake a movie, and now here they're reaching back to 1933. That's when the Lone Ranger first came out. It was a radio series back in 1933, and they felt they've got to remake this movie again. I think they do it because they'll get a certain number of people to come, and they're trying to break even. It is not going to work on this, from what I understand. This movie is going to lose money. I would think probably they may lose half the money. And this is a Walt Disney project. You'll remember last year Walt Disney had a blow-up movie called John Carter where they lost a lot of money. Let's look at this clip. This is a trailer. Let me set this up. This is a trailer of the movie, and a trailer is the best 2.5 minutes of the movie. This is what's supposed to suck you in. It's going to get you to go to the movie. See if it does this. I've only excerpted just 30 seconds here. Let's go to cut 8.
Vision told me a great warrior would help me on my quest. One who has been to the other side and returned.
All I know is that a man killed my brother. If we ride together, we ride for justice.
Justice is what I seek.
These two have a hard time staying dead.
I don't think this movie is going to have a hard time staying dead. This movie's going down for the count. And this hasn't been lost on Hollywood. They understand that there's a problem. As a matter of fact, two of our iconic producer-directors, Spielberg and Lucas, were recently speaking at USC, and they were talking about how Hollywood may, in fact, implode. And it's going to be because there may be 4, 5, 6, maybe 7 of these mega blockbuster movies that cost hundreds of millions of dollars to make. And here's what they had to say. Take a look at this. Let's go to cut 7.
There's going to eventually be an implosion or a big meltdown. There's going to be an implosion where 3 or 4, or maybe even a half a dozen of these mega budgeted movies are going to go crashing into the ground, and that's going to change the paradigm again.
What you're going to end up with is fewer theaters, bigger theaters, with a lot of nice things. Going to the movies is going to cost you $50, maybe 100, maybe 150.
Like Broadway costs today.
Yeah, it's like Broadway or going to, a football game.
$150. That's a serious amount of money. I personally think that given how far home entertainment has come, a lot of people are going to be sitting watching the tube in their living room. They're not going to pay $150. I'm certainly not paying $150. Okay, we've been talking about, of course, what's going on in Egypt, and this is unfolding as we speak, and people are very worried about the bloodshed that may take place there. And we need to understand what's about to happen next. We also need to understand what's America's role here. And I think who we need to speak to is somebody who's been in the region, who's an expert on both terrorism and Mideast affairs. We're going to have coming up next in the next segment, Dr. Walid Phares. He's a Fox News Channel Middle East and terrorism expert. He'll be joining us in the next segment. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson, filling in for Steve. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Are you at least 62 years old like me? Could you use an extra $50,000, $100,000 or more to live a better life? Then please consider the benefits a reverse mortgage can provide to you. With a reverse mortgage, you can have your mortgage payments stopped altogether and get equity out of your home to live on. And you can use the money to help you live a better life. How nice would that be, not to have a mortgage payment? Qualifying for a reverse mortgage is simple, since there are no income, asset, employment, or credit requirements. However, you must be 62 years or older, own your home outright, or have a very low balance on the mortgage, and be prepared to live in it throughout the rest of the loan. Call now for more information.
800-831-1560, 800-831-1560, 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Hello, my name is Fred Fleitz, and I'm the managing editor of Lignet. You've probably seen our name preceding some of the stories you read on Newsmax or heard Lignet referenced on Fox News, C-SPAN, or CNN. Perhaps you've asked yourself, what is Lignet? Lignet is an acronym for the Langley Intelligence Group Network, a private Washington, D.C. based service that provides global intelligence, in-depth analysis, and detailed forecasting. Lignet's staff and advisors include former CIA officers, national security experts, presidential advisors, and top-level government officials from around the world. I myself held several national security posts for the U.S. government during my 25-year career with the Central Intelligence Agency, the Defense Intelligence Agency, the U.S. Department of State, and the House Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence. Our lead advisor is General Michael Hayden, the former director of the CIA. He is joined by former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations John Bolton and former chairman of the National Intelligence Council and Special Assistant to President Ronald Reagan Fritz Ehrmann, former U.S. Ambassador to Venezuela Otto Reich, and former clandestine service officer Frederick Russman. Former chairman of the House Intelligence Committee Peter Hoekstra also joined our advisory board staff. Every day, our goal is to use our expertise, our resources, and our worldwide staff to take the pulse of the ever-changing political and economic landscape and the threats we face on a daily basis. Whether you are following global events for your portfolio or business, or just interested in the world around you, Lignet provides what you need to know to keep up with global events. There are many. Every day, Lignet members receive the Morning Brief, a daily email that provides summaries and links to our daily analysis to keep you up to date on Lignet's assessments. Lignet members receive unrestricted access to Lignet's secure database of global analysis. All of our special reports, previous analyses, and exclusive video interviews with intelligence insiders are available to members 24 hours a day. But you also get top-notch analysis that resembles the President's Daily Brief, the classified intelligence assessment delivered to the President of the United States every morning. Lignet also sends breaking news emails to our membership list. If there is a development of global proportions or a terror alert, our subscribers are always the first to know. I hope you now have a better understanding of what Lignet is, but more importantly, recognize how truly invaluable Lignet can be. As the old saying goes, knowledge is power.
Join Lignet for $1. Go to lignet.com.
Breaking news and breaking hearts. Aww. This is the Steve Malzberg Show.
Welcome back, everyone. I'm David Nelson. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. Thanks for being with us. You know, we've all seen the events unfold in of course, Egypt. We saw the jubilation that took place. We saw the tanks move in. The Egyptian military gave a 48-hour window for Mohamed Morsi to meet with the demonstrators. The demonstrations, as I said earlier, were mammoth. We're talking about 20% of the population was on the streets. Let's take a look at this clip that took place just before the holiday. Let's go to cut 3.
when it was finally confirmed that the military was back in charge after staging a coup d'etat. Tahrir Square, the scene of Egypt's revolution little over 2 years ago, erupted. Protests organised by the Tamarod movement had been calling for the country's first democratically elected president, Mohamed Morsi, to go for days.
It's unfolding, of course, and now some are concerned that bloodshed may actually take place. The Muslim Brotherhood is out there saying that they intend to put on their own protests. I do believe some people have died. We need some. We need to hear from somebody who understands the region very well, and there's nobody better to have than my next guest, Dr. Walid Phares. Is a Fox News Channel Middle East and terrorism expert, and he joins us by phone. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us. It's an important story.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Doctor, we've seen the events transpire in the last few days. There's been I'm going to use the word coup, and perhaps you could advise me if I'm using that word correctly. The Constitution has been suspended. What are we likely to see over the next coming days and weeks?
Well, let's begin by defining what has happened. The international media, unfortunately, has been so much influenced by the Brotherhood propaganda machine. It's not just out of Egypt. They are very good worldwide at immediately framing it in the 3-4 hours following the change, the revolution, as a coup, so that there will be an interruption of U.S. aid and a non-recognition by the international community. The change occurred as a result to the takeover by Mohamed Morsi last year as a president. Yes, he was democratically elected. We have to admit that fact. But his voters were half Muslim Brotherhood. The other half were just secular Egyptians who did not like the previous government, the previous regime. Throughout the year, and that's very important to understand, Morsi was moving forward to dismantle the goals of the democratic revolution, of the one of January 2011. He created a constitution that would minimize the rights of women, of minorities, appointed his Muslim Brotherhood colleagues and various positions of power, removed the first layer of the army, and more importantly, he actually unleashed a militia. That's really the breaking point of everything, and that militia was threatening the opposition. Now, civil society unleashed a series of demonstrations over the past few months, and it's very important for the listeners to understand that the leaders of the opposition have urged the army many, many times. The army is not hungry for power. They're having their bills paid. They are fine, but they were not happy to see that Morsi is not willing to make any concession to the opposition. Hence came January the 30th, last Sunday. And as you said in the introduction, extremely important, never seen before, 20 to 22 million Egyptians were on the streets. That's almost a fifth of the quarter of the entire population. That goes beyond and above any election, any referendum. This is the biggest moment of change.
Doctor, I was mesmerized by that. When I first saw the initial images of in Cairo, the numbers were staggering. It was beyond anything I've ever seen, certainly beyond a rock concert or like Woodstock that we might relate to. One of the things that I wanted to point out, you're on record saying this, and I wanted to ask you because you've mentioned the Army and the military and their role. You're on record saying that the Army is really the only force that can stop any civil war, and that if they hadn't intervened, there would in fact have been a civil war. Is that correct?
Well, that's actually the answer. Sunday, January the 30th, after those 20 million people demonstrated, everybody had their eyes on Morsi. Morsi was supposed to come and say, okay, there's a majority that doesn't want me. One of two. One, he would have said, I invite the opposition to form the next cabinet. Fine, he can coexist with it until the next election. Or he would have said, I resign, I'll become the opposition. Instead, he threatened of a civil war. His speech was a civil war. That is what prompted the army. That is what basically prompted the army to move in, because he had deployed his militia and he was about to enter a bloody confrontation with the opposition. And the army did what it did, which is not a coup d'etat, because a coup d'etat is not celebrated by millions of people like a big kermesse or a big party.
That's an excellent point, Doctor. One of the things I pointed out earlier in this program is some of the video that we showed. I was surprised to see that, along with the lots of signs in support of the military coming in, there were large signs of protest against the Obama administration.
Oh, yeah.
What is the view of the people here, of those in the United States and our leadership?
There's something odd here. Our public doesn't know how badly our image, the image of the United States, is in Egypt. Not the Islamists anyway are against the United States, so that is not the issue. But the actual civil society, people who are democratic, secular, liberal, etc., moms, middle class, minorities, they think that the United States as a whole, as a nation, has been partnering with the Muslim Brotherhood and blocking them, blocking the democracy forces too. They did not understand that this was a policy of the administration, not supported neither by a majority in Congress nor by the public opinion. So you saw all these signs expressing their frustration. They couldn't believe that the United States of America will be siding with the more authoritarian, ideologically radical group instead of siding with like-minded civil society people.
Doctor, one thing I wanted to point out here, and I just brought this up, it was the president's statement saying we're deeply concerned by the decision of the Egyptian armed forces to remove President Morsi and suspend the Egyptian constitution. That's, of course, what had to be done, certainly by the military, at least temporarily. Can you talk to us a little bit? We've only got 30 seconds. Talk to me about the new leader there.
First of all, quickly, that was not the army's decision. That was the people's decision, and the army came to protect the people. The two leadership now in Egypt, quickly. One is the army. It will stay in the back. It won't assume political function. The new leader is the head of the Constitutional Court of Egypt, who will assume only the mission of transferring power, overseeing the elections, and there will be a new president, there will be a new parliament. Even the Muslim Brotherhood will be there as a political party, but not anymore as a totalitarian regime.
Doctor, we're going to have to leave it right there. Thank you so much for being with us and your the expert information you're giving us. Thank you again, sir.
Thank you anytime.
That, of course, was Dr. Walid Phares. He's Fox News Channel Middle East and terrorism expert. Of course, this is going to unfold for some time. I don't think that this is over. I don't see how it could possibly be over, despite the fact that 20% of the population was out in support of this coup d'etat, or I guess I'm being told by experts that it wasn't a coup d'etat. It certainly seems like that. You see tanks rolling into the city. That sounds like a coup to me. But in any event, 20% of the population, but there's still a lot of supporters for Mohammed Morsi, certainly the Muslim Brotherhood, and they have vowed violence. So I do not think this is over. And I guess the one question I didn't get to ask the good doctor was, what is our reaction here? Is our military in touch with the Egyptian military? Is the administration, is there something going on behind the scenes? This, of course, will unfold in the next few days. Coming up next, we're going to have Todd Wood. We're going to be talking about the role of the military and what he thinks of what's going on in our society today. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson. Right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Tired of calls, levies, and liens from the IRS, or hiring others who don't get the job done? Call Wall & Associates and you'll never talk to the IRS again. The IRS has a program to eliminate tax debt, and Wall & Associates professionals are trained to maximize its benefits for you. You always speak with a live person with real support and real knowledge. We've helped thousands of taxpayers like you settle their tax debt with the IRS for a fraction of what they owe. We solve tax problems. Call Wall & Associates now. 800-574-6029. We have the professionals who know how to solve tax problems. If you owe money to the IRS, your tax problems are not going away by themselves, and the passage of time will only make matters worse. Act now, before it's too late. Call Wall & Associates right now to speak to a professional tax relief agent. Call 800-574-6029. That's 800-574-6029. Again, 800-574-6029.
Heart disease is the biggest killer disease in America, and this doesn't surprise me. We are addicted to starches, sugars, fatty meats, and salt. People who live in countries with little heart disease eat very differently. One way some people stay heart healthy is by following what is known as the caveman or Stonehenge diet, so named because of its similarity to the way our prehistoric ancestors ate. People who follow this type of diet live off local fruits and root vegetables and get their protein mostly from fish and wild game they shoot themselves. Now, since most of us don't hunt or fish for all our protein, here are some simple tips on how you can start to eat like a caveman, modern day style. First, fill up on fruits and vegetables. Eat them first and you'll be less hungry. Feast on fish, which is rich in nutrients but not in calories. Choose fatty fish like mackerel, herring, sardines, and salmon, which are rich in heart-healthy omega-3 fatty acids. Get out and go for a walk. Remember, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers, so they didn't spend their time sitting in front of a TV or computer all day. If you live more like a caveman or a cave woman, your heart will love you for it. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thank you for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
Do you have a motorized wheelchair or scooter that needs repairs and you don't know where to turn? Then call the experts at Precision Repair Network. They are the specialists in repairing all makes and models of motorized wheelchairs and scooters. You can call 24/7 and they will come to you anywhere in the United States. They'll give you a loaner to use until they return yours in perfect condition. And your repairs may be covered by your Medicare or your private insurance, so there is little or no out-of-pocket cost to you. If your wheelchair or scooter needs repairs, call this special hotline now and learn how you can get door-to-door service on your repairs at little or no cost to you. Precision Repair Network. They'll get you moving again. Operators are ready to take your call right now. 800-978-4813. 800-978-4813. 800-978-4813. That's 800-978-4813.
Where can you find the Steve Malzberg Show? Everywhere. From your smartphone to satellite radio to Newsmax Live TV to Roku, we have you covered. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm, of course, David Nelson. It's July 5th. It's the day after a very important holiday, our country's birthday. And I thought it was appropriate to bring in my good friend, Todd Wood. Todd, you may have seen interviews I've done with Todd in the past for Money News. Of course, I'm one of the anchors for Money News, and Todd was in. Todd is a former emerging markets debt trader, but he's also a veteran. He's a graduate of the Air Force Academy. He's a former special operations pilot, has worked with Special Forces operations teams like SEAL Team 6, and he joins us. He's here in the studio today. Todd, welcome. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me, David. I appreciate the opportunity.
No, you're welcome. By the way, I failed to mention that Todd is also an author, and that was foolish of me. Of course, you wrote First Currency, and then, of course, now your latest book is called Sugar. Is that right?
Yeah, it just came out, and it should be available in all channels here shortly.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about the thesis of the book, because that has a relationship to what's going on in our country today.
Well, it's somewhat of a prescient book, I think, because I try to write books that are entertaining, but do talk about issues that are significant in the country's future. And energy policy is obviously one of those. So it starts off with a history of sugar production, which is fascinating. The plantations, all types of commerce throughout the Caribbean and the world is based on the history of sugar, but it morphs into a discussion of energy policy and what are we going to do with the trillions of barrels of oil under our feet that we need to harvest.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned energy policy, because it seems to be something that has escaped this administration, and I question sometimes whether or not we in fact have an energy policy. And at every turn, it seems that there are some out there that are bashing, the whole concept of fracking, and that seems to be spurring a lot of job growth within this country. And I'm surprised at the attack that this industry has had. I'm sure there's questions about environmental concerns, but we're talking about millions of jobs that can be created. And for the first time, it could actually help make us an independent energy independent nation, perhaps in 10 years. I want to show you this clip. I thought it was very telling, and it was a A movie that came out late last year was called The Promised Land, all right, starred Matt Damon. And it was about the fracking industry. And what was interesting, it was, of course, it seemed like it had been supported by environmentalists, but it in fact had been supported by those in the Arab world, had paid for this. I don't have actually the name of the organization, but this was supported with Arab money. Well, let's show this clip. It's clip 6.
You guys have closed more towns than the team behind you by triple digits.
I am happy to announce we will be bringing natural gas to McKinley.
When you sign this lease, it gives us the right to drill on your land.
A whole lot of money.
There's no reason your town shouldn't have a state-of-the-art high school.
What kind of money are you talking about? You could be a millionaire.
Hi, everybody. I'm here because my farm is gone. The land just turned brown and it died. If it's happened to one of us, it can happen to all of us.
Town, this life, it's dying. You all see it coming and you just don't get out of the way.
We're a $9 billion company. Do you know what we're capable of? Do you?
That, of course, was the trailer to Promised Land, and of course, to set that up, that was Matt Damon, who comes in. He's a salesman for the corporation, and they're bashing these corporations, like many out there, in the fracking industry. They're saying that this is, maybe an environmental hazard. I'm sure there are things that need to be done, but how important is it for us to develop energy independence in this country, Todd?
Well, it's hugely important. We're sending all our money to people overseas who at the best don't like us and at the worst want to kill us. So it really makes no sense. And if we can have a North American energy source that is plentiful and cheap and readily available, we should obviously develop it. And the Obama administration has been trying to have it both ways, because they've shut down drilling on federal lands, but then take credit for the increase in drilling, which has come from places like North Dakota, where on private lands they have increased production and really stimulated their economy significantly. So we could see that happen across the country if we just got the government out of the way so that we could develop this resource.
It cuts across in other ways as well, because it brings up, for example, the Keystone Pipeline, which still to this date, after all these years, that's still not taking place. And that was supposed to bring in the heavy tar-like, sand-like oil that comes from Canada, and it can be trucked here.
Right.
It can also come via railroad,
right.
But that's certainly not going to be any more helpful in terms of the environment, because talking about diesel fuel. And the bottom line with this is that if the oil doesn't come in this direction to here, isn't it likely to go to China?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the pipelines we have now are maxed out in capacity, so that's why they want to make another extension of the XL or the Keystone. So this energy will be used and burned no matter what. It's just a question of who is going to burn it and how it gets here or goes elsewhere. And the rail industry will step up and deliver the oil if the pipeline is closed. And who is an owner of that majority of those companies is Warren Buffett, which is a big Obama supporter. So there's a lot of conflicts of interest in this whole deal.
That's very interesting. I'm glad you brought that up. I had forgotten that Warren Buffett had bought Burlington Northern, and of course, very important to him. We just talked about China, and of course, it brings up military concerns as well. And they have their first aircraft carrier. You're a veteran, you're an ex-Special Forces operations pilot. I see what's going on, in the South China Seas. It seems very clear that China is an aggressor there, and that what's underneath that sea, the energy rich, the resources that are under the seas, they want them.
Sure.
And I gotta believe that keeping our military strong is a big part of the equation here in the world balance of power here. Given the cutbacks that you've seen, some of them necessary, are we up to speed right now?
Well, one of the concerns I have is that, I went to the academy and this is drilled into you that as a military officer, you need to look forward and see what threats are coming down the pike, if you will. And armies and nations tend to train and equip to fight the last war. And I'm a special operator, and I'm very proud of the strides our special forces have made and their capabilities now. They're incredible, but I feel we may be ignoring the conventional force side of the force structure, and that means the Navy, the Army, the Air Force is flying very old aircraft. My Even the F-15, which is a great fighter, is now 30 years old. So we have to invest in the new generation of weapons in order to stay relevant in the world.
It seems that one of the directions we've gone in terms of you just mentioned aircraft, we've gone to the use of drones, and we're doing that both internationally and domestically, and that brings up a whole host of other issues here. Can they, in the end, aren't there times when we're going to need an actual pilot, somebody sitting in the cockpit of a plane, or can we get away with just sending these unmanned vehicles in?
Well, obviously the drone era is upon us, and that will change, has changed, and will change further the face of warfare, if you will, and that will continue in ways we probably have really no way of knowing. But yes, there are times, just like to control a land war or a land match, you need people on the ground in order to do that. You can use air power to a certain extent, but just like with the drones, you're going to need pilots, especially in like close air support roles and stuff like that.
We've had to cut back in the military, and it was a big part of what the president ran on, and we understand that. There's probably waste in the military. Can we keep ourselves strong as a nation on the military platform that we have right now, and at the same time cut out the waste, somehow change the system? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, of course we can do that. The question is, do we have the will to do that? And
talk to me about that.
There's
what does that mean?
There's a lot of conflicts of interest, whether it be, the Eisenhower term, the military-industrial complex. You have a lot of lobbying for weapon systems. You have congressmen lobbying for companies in their districts. So it is a real enigma on how to try to solve that. A lot of people have tried to solve it. I don't know if it's been done to this point yet, though.
Some have talked about the procurement system, the way we purchase weapons. I mean, we have an industrial complex that's massive. The Lockheed Martins of the world, the General Dynamics. Is the way that we purchase the weapons, is it the right way? Because I would think that lobbying efforts, can somehow pollute the system and cause corruption.
Well, of course they can. I mean, it's...
How do we root that out? I mean, is there anything we can do?
I think it has to come from leadership, from the top. I mean, I think it has to be set from the president on down that this is the way we're going to do business, and the old way is not going to be is not going to be tolerated anymore. And if you have an administration that really is fostering corruption in a lot of different ways, I don't think that does anything to help solve that problem.
We only have a couple of minutes left, and you've probably seen the events as they've transpired in Egypt. The Egyptian military has moved in. They gave 48 hours notice to Mohamed Morsi. They stepped in. They seem to have the support of the people, and there's a history of the Egyptian army having the backs of the people. Is that correct?
Yes, it does, and it's been the one force that has provided stability over time. The Morsi government really destroyed the economy and destroyed any hope that the young people had of a future, and so that's why you're seeing them in the streets right now. All they offered was, religious education, not mathematics and a lot of other things. So, of course, the secular population of Egypt is very upset and got their wish.
I guess the bigger question is what's happening right now behind the scenes, what we're not seeing. You're ex-military. You think there's secret talks going on between our army and their army, or between the administration and their army? How does it take place behind the scenes?
I think there obviously are. I mean, I obviously don't have a window into those. I mean, the real concern I have is what is the agenda of our government? It doesn't seem to be that we are trying to better the foreign policy of the United States. There seems to be other types of agendas, and I can't put my finger on that particularly, but it's we need to start thinking of what's in the best interest of the United States, not to further some social or political agenda.
And you think that in fact is happening? I know you're in touch with, military officers, and some have spoken off the record. How do you think, veterans out there and also current on-the-line soldiers feel right now?
I think a lot of them are worried and afraid to discuss a lot of things that are happening. They're worried about their phones being taped or their computers being hacked, and I think there's a lot of concern. There's definitely been a quieting of people talking outside official circles.
I want to leave you one last thought. I just wanted to, talk about the book real quick. The ending of the book, I don't want you to give it away, all right? I'm not asking you to do that, but it's pretty exciting. walk us through maybe, without giving the ending away, what we're really talking about here in the book, sugar.
Well, really what it boils down to is who benefits from the stopping the energy revolution in the United States, and what does that relate to? I think this can be traced back into history, into really a clash of civilizations. And you're right, I'm not going to give it away, but that's the people have been shocked by it, but that's always makes for a good thriller. So
we're going to have to get the book, and we're going to have to read that, and I would recommend it. Todd's one of the best. Thank you so much for being with us, Todd.
No, thank you for your time.
We've been speaking with Todd Wood. He's, of course, an author, former Wall Streeter like myself, and former Special Operations pilot for the U.S. Air Force. Coming up next is me. I'm going to be talking about something I frankly don't know what. You're listening to The Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson, filling in for Steve. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Meet Jim. Like many of us, Jim enjoys a busy life. Between work, family, and friends, his days zip along. And Jim has the energy to tackle almost anything. But lately, Jim's get up and go has literally taken on a new meaning. Jim's always put focus on a full night's sleep, but it seems like these days, he's up and down to go to the bathroom so many times he can barely wake up in the morning. His prostate concerns have him sad, tired, and worried. Activities that were once enjoyable now seem like a chore for Jim. His golf game is at the mercy of his bathroom schedule. Family outings are planned around it too. Jim even has difficulty going to the bathroom. He's tried so many prostate remedies he can't keep them straight, and nothing ever seems to help. Then Jim found out about Prostate Revive, the all-natural dietary supplement specifically formulated for men, targeted towards improving and sustaining normal prostate function. Prostate Revive includes 15 super ingredients never combined before, including saw palmetto extract, beta-cytosterol, pomegranate fruit extract, selenium, and other high-quality nutrients. These targeted and all-natural ingredients promote healthy urinary flow and optimal prostate health. And the best part is, Prostate Revive was developed by a renowned medical doctor. Dr. David Brownstein personally formulated Prostate Revive with one goal in mind: to promote a healthy prostate gland. Thanks to Prostate Revive, Jim's got his life back. He gets a full night's sleep every night, and his friends and his wife can't believe he's the same guy. He has his old energy back, and no one has to wait for him. He doesn't even think about his prostate concerns anymore. Visit MedicSelect.com to take back your nights and improve your quality of life with Prostate Revive.
Judging from everything you hear, you think all cholesterol is bad, but that's not really true. You need a certain amount of cholesterol to maintain good health. The problem is that too much cholesterol in your blood contributes to a plaque, a fatty substance that narrows the coronary arteries that feed blood flow to your heart. Picture your coronary arteries as a 4-lane highway. If one lane becomes blocked, traffic still flows well. 2 lanes, no major problem. But if a 3rd lane becomes blocked, that spells trouble. It's the same way with your coronary arteries. And when plaque slows their blood flow to your heart, this can even cause a heart attack. The good news is that when it comes to cholesterol, lifestyle changes can pay off big time. Even a small reduction in plaque can be like opening up another highway lane. Suddenly, blood flow that was stalled can go forward again. Changing your lifestyle does not have to be hard. And in fact, here are 3 ways to help you start lowering your cholesterol. Snack on nuts. Nuts are probably one of the easiest and tastiest ways to lower cholesterol. Walnuts and almonds are among the best. Bulk up your diet with fiber. Choose whole fruits instead of a fruit juice, brown rice instead of white, and if you're eating a baked potato, be sure to leave the skin on. Choose fish. Fish contains cholesterol-fighting omega-3 fatty acids. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
You've heard the allegations on the news, and during the big game, pro football players have been using deer antler velvet to get a competitive edge. Banned at the London Games for its performance-enhancing qualities. Forbidden in major sports leagues for being an unfair advantage to athletes. Deer antler velvet is now in stock and available to try for free for a limited time only. Athletes have been using it for years for increased strength, increased endurance, muscle mass stress reduction, and yes, greatly enhanced libido. Everyone's talking about this miracle substance so powerful, it's being banned by professional sports organizations, but for a limited time, it's being made available to the general public. Best of all, you can try it for free by calling 800-678-5153. That's right, get Superior Velvet for free. If you're looking to boost your performance on the field and between the sheets, get the most powerful, proven product used by athletes for years now for free. Claim your free bottle today by calling 800-678-5153. That's 800-678-5153. Again, 800-678-5153.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing ones and zeros. Internet stream is streaming. The most technology advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back. I'm David Nelson. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. Of course, I'm filling in for Steve. Today is the day after the 4th of July, July 5th. We've been talking about Obamacare, really for most of the show. And obviously, I've mentioned what the administration has recently done. They've punted. They've moved the employee mandate to 2015. It has political implications. But it also affects the medical community. In a minute, I'm going to want to speak to a medical professional on this. But I want you to watch this clip. Let me set this up. This is Senator Max Baucus speaking before the chamber. And this is a Democrat, all right? This is one of the leaders of the Democratic Party, what his thoughts of Obamacare are. Let's go to cut one.
Small businesses have no idea what to do, what to expect. They don't know what affordability rules are. They don't know when penalties may apply. They just don't know. People are going to be really confused. I tell you, I just see a huge train wreck coming down. And you and I have discussed this many times, and I don't see any results yet. I just see a huge train wreck.
That's the word used, a huge train wreck. We've been talking about the political aspects of Obamacare. Let's get the thoughts from a medical professional. Let's go to Scott Gottlieb. He's an MD. He's from the American Enterprise Institute and a medical expert and a practicing physician. Scott, thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Scott, let me ask you, I was reading one of, a paper that you had written just recently. You were talking about the unintended consequences of the new Medicare payment system. And is that affected by Obamacare in any way?
Well, it's driven by Obamacare. The law really created a new payment system for doctors that the goal of it is to drive consolidation of doctors into larger practicing units, basically to have doctors be salaried employees of large integrated health systems or more likely hospitals, so they become easier to regulate. It's really a throwback to the old model of capitation from the 1990s when people didn't like HMOs.
One of the things that disturbed me in your paper is this concept of bundling the payment.
Right.
Speak to me about that. Could that in any way lower the standard of care that we get?
Well, I think it already is lowering the standard of care. So it's already been rolled out in dialysis. So people who require long-term dialysis because they have kidney problems, the payment for the dialysis service is bundled. And what that means is the doctor gets a lump sum of money for everything. So if the doctor ends up using more drugs or more expensive technology, that basically comes out of this lump sum that the physician's getting. So what it does is essentially pit the doctor's income against their choice of technology and gives the doctor a very strong incentive to try to use the lowest cost technology possible to care for the patient. And we're seeing in the dialysis community underutilization of certain drugs and certain technologies that are at least raising the suggestion that patients may be worse off, potentially worse off. So you're seeing, for example, underutilization of drugs that stimulate red blood cell production, because most dialysis patients become anemic over the course of their disease. And so now the dialysis patients are requiring more blood transfusions because they're not getting as much of that drug. You're seeing other indicators in the blood work of the dialysis patients that suggest that they're not getting as much of certain drugs as they should be getting. So I think this is going to become a bigger problem once they roll out these bundled payments into other treatment areas. So a bundled payment for the treatment of the patient with a heart attack, a bundled payment for the treatment of a patient with a certain stage of cancer. The idea is to roll out bundled payments in all different kinds of what we call episodes of care, common illnesses, common conditions that people suffer from. And it's really a form of what we call capitation, basically giving the doctor a lump sum to care for the patients and give them an economic incentive to be cost efficient.
That was something that was actually done by the HMOs. That's not a very comforting thought, Doctor. Let me take you to another part of Obamacare. Not really a medical issue, but Obamacare is very dependent on young people enrolling, and to many it seems like a big transfer of wealth from young to the old. Now, I remember when I was a kid, I wasn't thinking about health care. I felt I was invincible. I would think it's unlikely that many of them are even going to enroll.
Well, I think that's probably right. They are dependent upon having the young people in this scheme and basically overpaying for insurance to help cross-subsidize older, sicker Americans who are more likely to get into these exchanges. What the administration's hoping, though, is that a lot of these young people are going to qualify for these subsidies to help offset some of the cost of the insurance. And so even if the insurance ends up being more expensive than what they're paying now, even with the addition of the subsidy, they're hoping that psychologically a lot of people will want to take advantage of a government subsidy to help offset something, even if they end up paying more in the end. So if you look at the economics of this, a lot of those young people do fall within the income bands because, they're young and single and in their first job not earning a lot of money. A lot of them do fall in income bands where they will qualify for government subsidies. Upwards of almost over half, I believe, was a recent analysis.
Well, we'll see how this unfolds. Doctor, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thanks a lot.
That was Dr. Scott Gottlieb. He's from the American Enterprise Institute, speaking on Obamacare. Coming up in the next hour, I told you about my dating life. We're going to have Internet dating expert, the queen of the Internet dating is Julie Spiro. My ex-boss, Mark Volman from the Turtles, will be with us as well. We're going to be talking about my years touring with the Turtles. I was the lead guitar player for that band. He's calling from on tour. He's also known as Professor Flo. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson, filling in for Steve. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Hi, this is Mike Reagan. Folks ask me, what would Ronald Reagan do if he were with us today? I believe the first thing he'd do is stop Obamacare. Already it's in effect with higher taxes, hidden fees, skyrocketing insurance rates, big Medicare cuts. And some insurance plans are hit with a 40% tax. Protect yourself by getting the Obamacare Survival Guide. It's already a #1 New York Times bestseller. Newsmax says it's the best guide to the new law, giving you the strategies, tips, and loopholes you need to know. If you're insured on Medicare, a business owner, a medical professional, just about anyone, you need this book. Get the #1 bestseller, the Obamacare Survival Guide, at bookstores everywhere. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 off the cover price.
Scroll down now to claim your copy of Obamacare Survival Guide for the special internet offer of only $4.95.
This is the worst weather we've seen in quite some time, folks, and I don't see any end in sight. People have been calling in from across the state complaining their basements are flooding. One guy said he now has an indoor swimming pool in his basement. I told him he needs the waterproofing innovations from Basement Systems. If you want a dry basement or crawl space that will weather any kind of storm, you need the patented solutions from Basement Systems. You've seen them on home makeover shows throughout the country. With a lifetime warranty, every solution is custom designed for your basement.
You can finally have that room you've always wanted with our total basement finishing system.
Call now for a free estimate, and you'll never have to worry about storms like these again.
Call now for your free basement inspection at 800-516-9794, 800-516-9794. Learn how to waterproof your basement now. Call this number, 800-516-9794, 800-516-9794.
This is your Newsmax Now update. I'm Kathleen Walter. Investigators want to know why a California 4th of July celebration turned into mayhem when fireworks started exploding on the ground, injuring more than 24 people. This was the scene last night in Simi Valley, California. Investigators say an accidental detonation occurred at the annual 4th of July show there. 28 people were hurt when witnesses say the fireworks began misfiring into the crowd.
It was almost as if one of the crates that had several mortars on it tipped over.
Some of those injured suffered broken bones and shrapnel wounds, but all of the victims are expected to recover. Authorities are now questioning witnesses and the company hired to put on the fireworks show. There is more bloodshed on the streets of Cairo as supporters of Mohamed Morsi call for his restoration to the presidency 2 days after his ouster in a military coup. At least 3 Morsi supporters were killed when the military opened fire outside the Republican Guard headquarters in Cairo. Morsi supporters protesting en masse today to express their outrage at his overthrow by the army and to reject a planned interim government backed by their liberal opponents.
This was actually the overwhelming will of the people.
At least 16 people have been killed and hundreds wounded in clashes across Egypt since Morsi's overthrow. 80 people were wounded Thursday in clashes between Morsi supporters and opponents in his hometown of Zagazig, Egypt. The White House says the June jobs report confirms a healthy economic recovery, but Republican lawmakers insist the president's policies are holding back job growth. According to the U.S. Labor Department, U.S. employers added 195,000 jobs in June, higher than what economists had predicted, as well as more jobs in April and May than previously thought. The unemployment rate remained steady at 7.6% because more people once again started searching for work. Analysts say the numbers point to a stronger economy in the second half of the year. The Roman Catholic Church will declare the late Pope John Paul II a saint. Pope Francis signed the decree Friday morning. No date has been announced for the canonization ceremony. John Paul II was the 3rd longest serving pope in history. He died in 2005 at the age of 84. And here's a look at what's coming up on your Newsmax Now update. Is Obamacare imploding? Representative Marsha Blackburn, Republican from Tennessee, explains why President Obama was forced to delay implementation of a key provision of his signature healthcare law. And history was made this 4th of July weekend at a Coney Island hot dog eating contest. Why the Black Widow of competitive eating was hailed a champion again. That and more next.
In 2013, half of your friends, family, and neighbors may lose their jobs, all while you are robbed of 90% of your life savings, investments, and home's value. Controversial economist Robert Wiedemer, who was the only expert to predict the recession, has released a startling video with shocking evidence that the powers that be have tried to ban. But that hasn't stopped 50 million people from getting the truth. Watch it at Aftershock911.com. Aftershock911.com.
Obamacare. More than $1 trillion in new costs. Hidden taxes, fees, big Medicare cuts, doctor shortages. How can we survive?
To know Obamacare is to survive Obamacare. The Obamacare Survival Guide tells you everything you need to know to protect yourself, your family, your business. The Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. Special internet-only offer right now at Obamacare911.com.
Judging from everything you hear, you think all cholesterol is bad, but that's not really true. You need a certain amount of cholesterol to maintain good health. The problem is that too much cholesterol in your blood contributes to a plaque, a fatty substance that narrows the coronary arteries that feed blood flow to your heart. Picture your coronary arteries as a 4-lane highway. If one lane becomes blocked, traffic still flows well. 2 lanes, no major problem. But if a 3rd lane becomes blocked, that spells trouble. It's the same way with your coronary arteries. And when plaque slows their blood flow to your heart, this can even cause a heart attack. The good news is that when it comes to cholesterol, lifestyle changes can pay off big time. Even a small reduction in plaque can be like opening up another highway lane. Suddenly, blood flow that was stalled can go forward again. Changing your lifestyle does not have to be hard. And in fact, here are 3 ways to help you start lowering your cholesterol. Snack on nuts. Nuts are probably one of the easiest and tastiest ways to lower cholesterol. Walnuts and almonds are among the best. Bulk up your diet with fiber. Choose whole fruits instead of a fruit juice, brown rice instead of white, and if you're eating a baked potato, be sure to leave the skin on. Choose fish. Fish contains cholesterol-fighting omega-3 fatty acids. I'm Dr. Chauncey Crandall, and thanks for watching this Heart Health Minute. Remember, it's never too late to prevent or reverse heart disease. Right now, I invite you to discover your own risk for heart disease or even a heart attack by taking my quick, free online quiz at www.simplehearttest.com.
And welcome back. The Affordable Care Act is not quite as affordable as President Barack Obama promised. That's why the administration has decided to delay implementation of one of the health care law's key provisions, says Representative Marsha Blackburn.
They are in process of now is damage control. They know that the implementation of the law is in crisis.
The White House announced Tuesday that the mandate for businesses to offer their employees insurance coverage will be delayed until 2015. And finally, Joey Chestnut and Sonia Thomas have defended their titles as hot dog eating champions. Thomas, a 100-pound dynamo known as the Black Widow of competitive eating, wolfed down almost 37 hot dogs. And to see more of our exclusive interviews and content, stay with Newsmax.com. This has been your Newsmax Now update for Friday, July 5th. I'm Kathleen Walter. Now here's the Steve Malzberg Show in New York.
Are you ready?
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Broadcasting live from the Newsmax studios, this is the Steve Malzberg Show. Be a part of the action by calling 855-777-9660. That's 855-777-9660. Or email Steve at malzbergshow@newsmax.com. Here is Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back. I'm David Nelson. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm filling in for Steve. Steve will be back on Monday. We've been speaking about Obamacare, the Affordable Care Act, on a lot of levels. In our last segment, we were actually talking about it from a medical point of view, but there are political ramifications, obviously. The news came out just before the holiday break that the administration, President Obama, they were really punting on the Affordability Care Act. They're moving the employer mandate to 2015. It seems like a very political move. Let's talk to an expert about it. We're going to go to James Carpretta. Excuse me, I said that wrong. James Carpretta. Right. So I said it right. Okay, I'm sorry. He's a senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center, and he joins us by phone. Jim, I apologize for mispronouncing the name. Thanks for being with us.
You're no problem at all. It's not an easy one, so I'm happy to be with you.
Jim, you saw the events unfold, just before the holiday break. They're moving the employer mandate to 2015. Talk to me about the political ramifications. Why are they doing this?
Well, they're under tremendous pressure. I mean, the employer community was going to them, beating them up, saying, this thing is a disaster. You've set up a system that won't work. It's not going to be ready in time for us to file electronically the forms you're telling us we have to file. It's never going to work in time, and it's burdensome. We have to change all of our IT systems to do this. You're hurting employment, by the way, because the employer mandate is pushing all of these people into part-time jobs. It's trying to stifle small firms. If they go above 50, they're subject to the employer mandate, so a lot of firms are staying at 49. They're being known as the 49ers. So, there's all kinds of bad incentive effects associated with the employer mandate. And employers were telling the administration about it, and they finally surrendered. This is a huge embarrassment for the White House. They're selling it as, oh, don't worry, it's just a one-year thing. Well, I mean, why, if it's such a bad idea to do this in 2014, why will it be a good idea in 2015? So I think they've really opened themselves up to a lot of problems.
It's funny that you mentioned that, earlier I played a clip of Nancy Pelosi equating Obamacare and to our founding fathers on Independence Day. And now I've got another news article out here, Nancy Pelosi welcoming the delay of Obamacare. It seems they don't have their act together. You know, you mentioned this, that there are some economic ramifications here. And some of what you're actually saying is showing up in some of the employment numbers. I noticed that in today's employment report, part of the good numbers, we had 195,000 new jobs, and that was better than expected. But 75,000 of those jobs were in hospitality, and it was many who have just switched over, given up on finding work, and have become bartenders and waitresses. So it may be showing up already.
Yes, exactly. And they're all going to be working less than 30 hours a week, because the employer mandate says if someone works more than 30 hours a week, they're counted as a full-time worker, and the employer is then subject to the fines that the law would impose if they didn't get qualified health insurance. So employers all over the country in service industries and retail and restaurants and hotels are pushing people that are currently working at 35 hours a week down to under 30. So this is a big deal for a lot of employees, and it's one of the reasons why there's been political pressure back on the White House. You know, I think at the end of the day, what's going on here is that the law is starting to unravel. If you can't do the employer mandate after 3.5 years of preparation, it really raises a lot of questions about whether you can do any of this.
Well, I know the business community. I know the business community has said that they're happy that this is, in fact, is being delayed. And some are even saying that this could actually mean that somehow the individual mandate could go. You wrote something in a recent piece, and I want to read this because I was very impressed with it, and I found it striking, that the delay, employers are under no obligation to offer insurance to workers. That's what's happening right now. But the IRS can still impose a tax on workers who don't have a qualified insurance plan by 2014. So it seems like they're doing everything to help business, but they're not helping the individual.
Yeah, I think this puts the Democrats in a terrible position politically. You're saying, well, employers don't have to fulfill this obligation because the reporting requirements were too complicated, but the workers who the employers are supposed to be offering to, they still have to have coverage whether or not the employer is offering it to them or not. So, they've now taken the hook, the financial hook off of the employers, but left it on the workers. I just find that an untenable position politically for the Democrats.
It was, of course, the Supreme Court that ruled this was all constitutional, and it all seemed to hinge around that word that I said earlier, the tax. That was the key word in the ruling, because if it had been a penalty, this might not have even be law today. It seems comical to me that you would call this penalty an actual tax. What are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, so for the individuals, I think it's quite clear that it was always written to be a penalty, and they just called it a tax just to allow it, as you said, to pass constitutional muster, which I don't think it did, but they said it did. So they, they bent over backwards to call it a tax just for that one purpose. But the reality is that individuals are on the hook to buy health insurance that must be approved by the government. There's no reporting requirement in place to figure out if their employer offered them a qualified plan, and yet workers are supposed to either sign up with an employer plan or go into the exchanges and pay very high premiums. They've taken out a very major element to make this system work and said it's not going to apply till 2015. They're going to be stuck with having to undo it for the individuals too. I'm quite certain of that.
Let's talk about the exchanges because that's a big part of course, of the Affordable Care Act, and from what I'm seeing, it doesn't look all that affordable. But it looks like quite a number of states have not done anything with regards to putting up an exchange, and they're leaving it to the federal government. We seem woefully behind. How far behind are we?
Well, there are news stories today even about a state where they're actively trying to do it, a state of Connecticut, in the state of Connecticut, where the person running the exchange really wants to get it up and running, is working hard with the administration, fully cooperative. And even he said, hey, I wish I had a whole more year to get this done because we're so far behind. I think that's an indication. They're behind in systems development. There's a thing called the Federal Data Hub, which all the exchanges are supposed to be able to access to find in real time income information on all the American workers. That has not been tested well enough. People don't think it's going to work very well when it's supposed to be up and running in October. Meanwhile, the consumer experience, that is, of going on the website to figure out which plans you have available to you, people are all over the country are saying it's not going to be a very good experience at all. It's going to be very truncated. The options will not be fully understood by the people trying to apply for the benefits. So the whole thing has a feel of a rushed, not very well thought out job. And, what are the implications of that politically? I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's going to be quite bumpy for the administration.
I think we're going to find out. It looks like it's going to be a long road here, and we'll see how this unfolds. Jim, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
That was, of course, James Carpretta. He's a senior fellow at the Ethics and Public Policy Center. We'll see how this all unfolds. We got a great rest of the hour for you. I mentioned that we're going to have Julie Spira up at the end of the hour. We're going to have my ex-boss, Mark Volman. And coming up next, we're going to talk a little bit more about the Zimmerman trial, but from a different perspective. We're going to be talking about race in the Zimmerman trial and the role that it's playing. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
If you are successful at what you do, whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, a business owner, or you have a great career, you understand the concept of protecting yourself. Well, are you protecting yourself, your family, and your assets with quality term life insurance? Consider these possible rates. A man age 45, non-tobacco user could obtain $1 million of coverage for as little as $75 a month, and this rate is fixed for the next 10 years. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. A man age 50, non-tobacco user may be able to obtain $500,000 of coverage for as little as $115 a month. And this rate is fixed for the next 20 years. We have great rates for smokers too. Call the Term Lifeline now. 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309, 800-430-1309.
Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Credit card companies lure you in with low introductory rates or low minimum payments, and before you know it, you owe thousands of dollars in credit card debt. It has happened to millions of good people just like you. But here's the good news. Thanks to a powerful program now approved, anyone with $2,000 or more in credit card debt can cut their credit card payments up to half and even reduce or eliminate interest charges altogether. That's right. Our nationwide nonprofit program is helping U.S. residents cut their credit card payments. Call 800-613-3159 now. The call and information are free. We've helped over 500,000 people with their credit card debt, and now we can help you. Call 800-613-3159 to see how this powerful nonprofit program can work for you. Bad credit card debt happens to good people. Get free of credit card debt today. Call 800-613-3159. That's 800-613-3159. Again, 800-613-3159.
Don't complain about your cable bill going up and up and up. Do something about it. Grab a pencil and jot down this special number, 1-855-625-MY-TV. The more cable TV rates go up, the better digital satellite TV looks. So cancel the cable and get more of your favorite channels in 100% digital quality for less money. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. Right now to sign up for packages starting as low as $19.99, and there's no equipment to buy. You get free HD TV upgrade, a free DVR upgrade, and free professional installation. You control what you watch when you watch it. Record your favorite shows. Pause and rewind live TV. Even skip the commercials. Watch local channels too. At just $19.99, what are you waiting for? Pull out your major credit or debit card. Call 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV. Cancel the cable. Cut costs and get more. 1-855-625-MY-TV. 1-855-625-MY-TV.
Hi, I'm Joan London, and if you're worried about your parent or a loved one living alone like I was, and you want reliable senior care information, then call A Place for Mom, the nation's largest senior living referral service. You'll get free information on assisted living, Alzheimer's care, nursing homes, even important financial information.
They had obviously researched every place, not just given me names.
Really? Yeah.
They found me a place for what she could afford, and it was magnificent.
We're now very confident that she's safe, and they just helped every step of the way, and I can't thank them enough.
So if you're struggling to find reliable senior living information, call A Place for Mom. This is a free service, and you can trust them to help you.
If you're struggling to find reliable senior living information for your mom or dad, then call or go online to get the free help you need during this turbulent time. Call now, 800-908-1254, 800-908-1254.
Sure, Steve might be a bit of a hypochondriac, but he never gets sick of breaking news. This is the Steve Malzberg Show. Call Steve at 1-855-777-9660. That's 1-855-777-9660. Here's Steve.
Welcome back. I'm David Nelson. This is, of course, the Steve Malzberg Show. We've been watching, of course, over the last couple of weeks, the Zimmerman trial unfold. This is a murder trial. It's a very serious event. But race has come in to this trial, and some are actually, the media has actually been very on top of this. I pointed out earlier that I think Reverend Al Sharpton's actions have been deplorable. He seems to always want to play the race card. But I wanted to speak to somebody about this and how it's unfolding in the trial. And joining us is George Farrell. George is the author of the best-selling book, The Angry Black Man Guide to Success. George, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, David. Thank you for calling me. I'm honored to be with you today.
George, I don't know if you had an opportunity to watch the trial today. There's been some developments. The defense is now putting their case forward, but you've seen the events unfold. You saw the first witness for the prosecution was supposed to be a star witness, Rachel Gentile. A lot was made about her attitude and how some whites might not like her. This is, of course, a murder trial, isn't it? How important is that?
It is a murder trial, and I actually resided in Florida for a minute, and I can understand Rachel. English was not her first language. She's not very comfortable with it. She's in a location she doesn't want to be in, and coming from her neighborhood, law enforcement doesn't always mean you well. So I can understand her attitude. Unfortunately, she should have been schooled better. But I also understand that she speaks French Creole, Spanish, which are her first and second languages, and English is her third language. So she's not really comfortable speaking in English. I think a lot of people made too much of it about her attitude because in the area where she was raised, she was not raised in a multicultural community.
I mentioned earlier, George, that if this had been a trial between a black man and a black man, we probably wouldn't even be talking about it, or a white man and a white man. But the fact that race is involved here, and it's become a big issue, and the media is obviously playing up the card. I get the fact that she's a teenager. Teenagers don't always do the right thing. Maybe they have an attitude. I know my son certainly had an attitude when he was a teenager. But again, this is a murder trial, and a lot was said about the cross-examination by the defense, of Rachel Gentile. But isn't it appropriate, to question the validity of a witness, the credibility of a witness in a murder trial? A man's reputation is on the line here.
That's his job, and his job is to make her uncomfortable, to make her seem like she's untrustworthy. That is this job to get his client off. So he's going to use everything in his ability to get her off, even if it makes it seem like she's against the world. And she already had that attitude. He just pushed it a little bit further, which was his job, in order to make her seem like she cannot be trusted. But again, I think people are a little harsh because they're judging her as if English is her first language, as if she's been in a professional atmosphere before. This is probably the most professional atmosphere she's ever been in. And who wouldn't be nervous being in the courtroom? I don't look forward to any police actions, not even a traffic stop. So.
Well, I've had a traffic ticket, George, but let me go to the prosecution's case here, and they've already completed their case. They've rested their case, and do you feel they did a good job in humanizing Trayvon Martin?
Yes, I wrote about that. I write for communities at the Washington Times, and I wrote about that they were looking to dehumanize him, make it seem like it was okay to murder a young kid. I mean, you're right about race. If this was a white youngster walking down the street, would he have even been approached? I don't think so. And that's where race really comes in. It starts where this actual case starts. If it was a group of Latino kids walking through the neighborhood, not even a group, but one Latino kid or one Anglo-Saxon kid or white kid, would Mr. Zimmerman have been so hostile? Would he have been so hostile to feel that he actually needed a gun? And I think that's where this case starts. Why did he actually even need a gun to walk through his own community? Was it that dangerous? I mean, it's a gated community. How dangerous could it have been that you need a gun to walk around a gated community?
This is, of course, George, it translates beyond the courtroom, and these issues, these race issues we deal with on a daily basis across our country. You know, I guess this will unfold, and I guess we're still trying to heal the wounds, but we seem to keep trying to open up the wounds. Certainly the media does this because it's ratings. It does boost the ratings. Is there anything we can do to help prevent that?
Well, that's something that hopefully this country will get over. I don't think it will. I think, and this is in my book. I wrote the book, The Angry Black Man's Guide to Success, to give African-American men the armor and how to deal with this situation. But when you're a child, the police harassment actually never stops throughout your life, no matter what level you're on. When you're a child, it's the police officer on the corner. When you become a professional, you become more successful, the law enforcement group changes to the FBI and the IRS, which I consider IRS a police enforcement agency.
Understood.
Whenever a African-American entertainer or any professional becomes worth more than $5 million, and I say this in my book, you become a target for now, instead of the police officer on the corner, it's the Internal Revenue Service that said, hey, this African-American earned more than $5 million. Let's go take that money back. It's just been a system of containment for African-Americans throughout the history of the United States of America.
I guess we're going to have to deal with this, unfortunately, with events like this as they unfold. George, thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it today. Thanks for calling in.
All right, thank you, and I look forward to talking to you again. Thanks a lot, David.
Thank you, George. That was, of course, George Farrell, the author of One Angry Black Man's Guide to Success. Coming up, we're going to have my ex-boss, Mark Volman of the Turtles, the founding member of the Turtles. He's also Professor Flo. We're going to learn about that. Don't forget, I was a Turtle. I'm an ex-Turtle. I played guitar with him for a pretty long time. And then later on, we're going to talk about my internet dating life with Julie Spira. She's going to give me some advice on how I can do a better job getting a date. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. We're going to take a short break. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Obama wants your money, and he's determined to get it. He wants your money to buy off unions, his Wall Street cronies, and to expand the Obama welfare nation. Well, Swiss America is determined to stop him from stealing your money. They want to send you an award-winning film, I Want Your Money, on DVD that exposes his plan. It'll help keep the government's hands off your money using gold, silver, and other hard asset strategies to protect your hard-earned money. Call today and request the DVD, I Want Your Money, normally $19.95, yours absolutely free. Let Swiss America show you how to use gold, silver, and other hard assets to protect your hard-earned money. Call now. 800-978-3907. 800-978-3907. Call Swiss America right now. Learn all about investing in gold. 800-978-3907. That's 800-978-3907. Call right now.
Newsmax Magazine is proud to present a special tribute to our 40th president, Ronald Reagan. It's a very special documentary and commemorative issue of Newsmax Magazine celebrating the centennial of President Reagan's birth. First, here's a video clip from the award-winning documentary, Rendezvous with Destiny.
We're in the midst of a springtime of hope for America.
You ain't seen nothing yet.
Impulses of an evil empire.
Tear down this wall.
I believe that together we can keep this rendezvous with destiny.
In the next several minutes, you will learn things about President Ronald Reagan that you've never seen, heard, or read before. Welcome to today's special Newsmax event celebrating the life and legacy of President Reagan. During this historic presentation, we will commemorate President Reagan's storied life. We'll revisit his 2 terms in office and recollect his proudest achievements and greatest challenges. Ronald Reagan's life reads like a fairy tale of success stories. He was an accomplished athlete, an honored veteran, a famous actor, the governor of California, and of course, our nation's 40th president.
He called himself a citizen politician and only entered politics when he warned government was gaining too much power. By then he was age 54 with a successful career behind him. Twice elected President of the United States, Ronald Wilson Reagan was a contradiction to some. Once a Democrat, then a Republican. A champion of smaller government whose own government grew. A fiscal conservative who failed to balance the budget. His critics mistook his affability for weakness, but behind the smile and the charm existed an extraordinary leader with unique skills and bold and revolutionary ideas.
We only had time to share just a few of the top defining moments in Ronald Reagan's presidency, but you'll get to see them all in Rendezvous with Destiny. By the way, the president's close relationship with the Pope is especially fascinating. You'll also learn how dealing with an alcoholic father helped shape Reagan's ability to negotiate. And if you ever wondered what the leader of the free world likes to get for the holidays, well, you'll find that out as well. So let's review today. In this free offer, we are sending you a copy of Ronald Reagan, Rendezvous with Destiny, and the collector's limited edition of our issue commemorating the 100th anniversary of President Reagan's birth.
Right now, when you subscribe to Newsmax magazine, you can own both the DVD and receive the special Reagan 100th birthday commemorative edition. That's $25 in bonus gifts when you subscribe. Go to newsmax.com/Reagan13 to subscribe today. Join the millions who read Newsmax magazine every month.
This is not your typical Screamfest talk show. No. This is the next generation of talk radio. Here is Steve Malzberg.
I think about you day and night. It's only right to think about the girl you love and hold her tight. So happy together. If I should call you up.
That's, of course, the Turtles singing Mark Volman and Howard Kalin, the Turtles. Like I said, we were going to have my ex-boss with us, Mark Volman, a.k.a. Professor Flo. He's on the phone with us. Mark, how are you?
Hey. Hi, Dave. How are you? I'm doing great.
I know you're out on tour. I know you're out in California. By the way, I got to bring something up. I was just going through my finances. I went back. I had to do my taxes from a number of years ago, and this item came up, and it looks like you owe me money. You didn't pay me for the Detroit date. Where's my money?
And I'd be happy to do it as long as you can, prove that.
I don't think I can. So, Mark, you're out on tour. First, tell me how's the tour going?
It's going really good, Dave. We're doing about close to 60 shows this year, which is a jump up from last year. We did 43, but we've played about 21 cities, and fortunately, we're having really good audience involvement. We've had about 18 sellouts. But what we did this year was scale down the size of the theaters, and instead of going up, we kind of went down and are playing much nicer venues. Like tonight is 1,800 seats, and we've got about about 15 or 1,600 expected. So that's a good, coverage for us.
Who's out on the road, Mark? Who's out on the road with you for this tour this year?
This year we have Gary Lewis and the Playboys, prominently known for the song "This Diamond Ring." But Gary also had 7 songs. He was the first American artist to have 7 #1 records or 7 top 10 records in a row back in 1960s and then 60s. And then Mark Lindsay, the original lead singer with Paul Revere and the Raiders, Gary Puckett and the Union Gap, Chuck Negron, lead singer from Three Dog Night, and then the Turtles kind of tie all the loose ends up at the end. So.
Mark, when I was out on the road with you, and I played, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I was on the road with the Turtles for probably a little more than a decade, if I remember correctly. One of the things that struck me was that, when we played the theaters, sure, it was the older crowds, that were there, but, Mark, you're still doing state fairs, and I remember when we did them, the kids would come up, and they would just flood the stage asking for autographs, and they were having a great time.
Well, first I want to address the first issue, and yes, you did play with us for quite a long time, and as a matter of fact, when I think of the, 0 point of what I'm looking for every time I'm looking for a guitarist, you were not a problem. You were actually one of the best guitarists that we ever did.
Wow,
have.
thank you.
So I don't want the people listening to you on Money Talk or whatever you call this to think you just were a fly-by-night musician. You were an excellent player, and you did a fabulous job. I hated to lose you when you finally left the group.
I hated leaving, Mark. I got to tell you, you know why I left. I had to leave for obvious reasons. We'll talk about it at another time. But something's different about this tour, and I hinted at it earlier, a.k.a. Professor Flo. One of the things I left out in the intro, not only are you a founding member of the Turtles, you're a professor at Belmont University. What are you doing on this tour? Tell the audience about it.
Well, last year I came up with an idea for a summer school class, which would bring 10 students in their own tour bus out on the road with the Happy Together tour, and it worked so well last year for us that the producers of the show helped me put it together again for this year. And so we have 10 students from the College of Entertainment and Music Business at Belmont out doing all of the different jobs. What I did is I created a job grid of the 7 or 8 jobs out on the road, everything from selling merchandise to stage management, tour manager, lights, sound, monitors, and every day a student gets an assignment, and they basically work with one of the members of the crew that day to learn, and are mentored by one of the staff on the tour. And so once they get through the jobs, 7 or 8 jobs, then it spins around again, and then now they're at the point where they're actually negotiating for jobs, because some of them are very interested in certain parts of the tour. And so what I've tried to do is set it up so they could negotiate by trading jobs, and the person who might want to really do merchandise can choose for the last 3 or 4 days of the tour to just do the job that they really want to do. And it's been a fantastic experience, not just for the students, but it's been a fantastic experience for all of the members of the tour. Everybody has just really loves having the students out with us. They work very hard. And
Mark, are they actually on the tour bus? Are they getting that experience of being on the road?
Yeah, they have their own bus. So we actually travel with 3 buses, and one of the buses is a Belmont University bus, and that keeps them. I have an assistant out on the road with me, a fellow named Lucas, and Lucas rides with them on the bus, and so he sort of decompresses the day. They sit down, and one of the fun things for the students, hopefully it's fun, is every day at 4 o'clock we do a class.
I was going to ask you that. Are you actually holding class out there?
Yeah, I do a class every day, and each day I present a part of a real tour. One day I brought in a guy named Chris Lucky, who was the program director at the radio station that co-produced the show. I brought in people who do catering for the concert. So what we do is we introduce them to tons of opportunities out in the industry that are available by bringing in people who have all, at one time or other probably wanted to play music but found that they did better in being around entertainment by doing other jobs that they were able to create for themselves. So it says to the student, if you don't survive as a player and a performer, there are a lot of ways that you can be around the excitement of touring.
Mark, I wanted to ask you this question. I know the answer to it, of course, having played with you for as many years as I have. But I'm sure you get this all the time. I'm sure reporters ask you and Howard this every single day on the tour. But what keeps it fresh and alive for you? Singing "Happy Together" and "Eleanor" and all the big hits each time. You've done it thousands of times. What keeps it new for you?
That's a good question, and I wish I had a really good answer.
Mark, you're letting me down. I was counting on a really great answer here.
No. I think, not to sound, heartless or something, but, a big part of it is that, we're at a time in our life, Howard and I have been together 51 years.
Wow.
And a part of the reason we love to do this is economically it's finally feasible to earn a living doing it for ourselves. And so, yes, that plays a big part, but I know Howard would answer exactly with what
I'm sure he would. I am sure you're destroying the myth of rock and roll right before my very eyes in front of millions of people. Mark,
I think if we didn't still love it and still enjoy that hour on stage is really the most fantastic still. I mean, the energy that we share with the audience and what we get back. It's very hard at this time. We don't have planes like you two, we don't. we drive everywhere, and so the travel.
Well, that's the way it used to be. That's the real rock and roll. One last question, Mark, and keep in mind this is a family show, okay?
Of course.
Mark, this is a family show, okay? Is anybody still handing out the turtle pins?
Oh, yeah, of course. Turtle pins we pass out everywhere we go. It's an immediate connection.
Yes, but different turtle pin colors have different meanings for people.
Well, yes, but we kind of keep that. If you get a certain color, it opens up the backstage.
Yeah. Okay, it's a family show. We can leave it. We can leave it there, Mark. Mark, enjoy the rest of the tour. Thank you so much for being with us.
Oh, my pleasure. I wish you all the luck and all my love to you, and take care of yourself, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you, Mark. We'll be in touch real soon. Thank you. That, of course, was Mark Volman, founding member of the Turtles, Professor Flo. All right, coming up next is the segment you've all been waiting for. We're going to have Julie Spear on, and we're going to be talking about my internet dating life, some of the things that went well and some of the things that didn't. We're going to have her upcoming in the next segment, and I've got a secret video we're going to show you as well. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson, filling in for Steve. We'll be right back.
The Steve Malzberg Show.
Hi, this is Dick Morris. Obamacare is taking full effect this year with over 15,000 pages of regulations. You need to know how this law affects you. That's why you should get your copy of Obamacare's Survival Guide. It's easy to read and the best guide to the new law. Even if you're currently insured or a senior on Medicare or a business owner, a medical professional, or really any citizen, You need the Obamacare Survival Guide. In it, you'll find about hidden taxes, fees, and fines, including a 40% tax on some health plans. I warned you about Obamacare. It's rationing, Medicare cuts, and will trigger doctor shortages. Now the Obamacare Survival Guide gives you the simple steps to protect your family. So get the Obamacare Survival Guide at bookstores everywhere. It's already a #1 Amazon bestseller. Or get our special $4.95 offer and save $15 today by going to Obamacare911.com. Obamacare911.com. That's Obamacare911.com.
Do you owe the IRS? Do you have unfiled tax returns? Have you received a wage garnishment or bank levy? Maybe a lien has been filed against you. OMG Tax can help you with all your IRS tax problems. Don't wait another second. Take action now. Call my team at OMG Tax. Honest and professional, we don't make false promises. If you owe back taxes or if the IRS is garnishing your paycheck, you need help now. OMG Tax can help you get your life back to normal. If you're serious about handling your tax matter, call OMG Tax now and get the peace of mind you deserve. Don't let the IRS take your next paycheck. Stop waiting and call our team at OMG Tax. OMG Tax has a straightforward, no-nonsense approach and has helped many Americans resolve their IRS nightmare. Call OMG Tax now.
Call 1-800-255-6485. That's 1-800-255-6485. 800-255-6485.
Attention hip implant patients. Are you in constant pain? Have you received a letter from your doctor about your implant? Have you had or need a revision surgery? Do you have high levels of metal, chromium, or cobalt in your blood? Over 90,000 hip implant devices have been recalled due to defects and failures resulting in revision or replacement surgery. If you have a recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920 to see if your implant is affected by the recalls. If you or a loved one has a defective or recalled hip implant, you may be entitled to substantial financial compensation. Call 800-460-0920. That's 800-460-0920. Protect your legal rights today. Call 800-460-0920. This is an advertisement, not valid in all states. Paid non-attorney spokesperson. iLawsuit.com is an advertising group that represents lawyers advertising their services and is a free matching service for consumers. It is not a law firm or lawyer referral service.
A tragic fire, a break-in, a fall. Look, accidents and emergencies really do happen. The difference between life and death could be as simple as the push of a button. That's where Medical Guardian comes in. Are you afraid that something tragic may happen with no one around to help? What if you or your elderly loved one had a fall and lay for hours or even days before any help arrived? What if it was just too late? You don't have to live in fear that something terrible could happen. It's time you discovered Medical Guardian. Life-saving help at the push of a button. Get the peace of mind you need for yourself and your loved ones. Call 800-550-3470 right now. Be one of the first 100 callers and get your first month of Medical Guardian free. 800-550-3470. Call now and get your first month for free. The help you need is at your fingertips. Ensure your safety today with Medical Guardian. 800-550-3470. That's 800-550-3470. 150 million people suffer from headaches. All you want is for the pounding in your head to stop. Migralex stops the pounding. Migralex was developed by a neurologist and founder of the New York Headache Center.
I'm neurologist Dr. Alex Malzberg. After studying and researching the human brain for 25 years, I've developed Migralex, which eliminates pounding headaches. It works for my patients, and I'm so convinced it will work for you. I don't just guarantee it, I put my name on it.
Dr. Malzberg's Migralex gets rid of headaches fast without harsh caffeine, sodium, or preservatives.
Migralex works unbelievably fast, and it's gentle on my stomach.
Find out how to get your free bottle of Migralex. Call 800-532-2967. Plus, if you're one of the first 100 callers, you'll also receive the Migralex Quick Tips to Headache Relief absolutely free. That's 800-532-2967. Or go to migralexrelief.com. MIGRALEX relief.com. Or call 800-532-2967.
Microphones hot. Satellite link established. Studio lights illuminated. Cameras rolling. Audio and video encoders firing ones and zeros. Internet stream
is streaming. The most technology-advanced radio show is on the air. Here's the captain of this enterprise, Steve Malzberg.
Welcome back. I'm David Nelson, filling in for Steve. This is the last segment of the show. It's been a great show. You know, one thing I noticed about the show today, when I started off, there were all these papers on my desk, and I know it's the end of the show because I'm down to just 2. So we're getting near the end of it. You know, I mentioned we did this last week. I got online dating expert to help me out. I went out on my first date, and I got to set this up for you. I met this girl, beautiful girl. She walked into the room. She was absolutely gorgeous, and you know, I thought it would be a great idea to have her on the show with me. So I gave her a call and invited her on the show, and I didn't know that secretly my crew was recording the conversation. Let's show them what I'm talking about. Hi, Julie. It's David Nelson. Pretty good. Did I catch you at a bad time? Okay, good. How are you? You know, it's funny. We got such huge success at our date on the internet. You know, not your name, but I teased the fact that I was at Match.com. We can't. Trying to get your name off Newsmax. We didn't mention anything. No, this is before we even met. Okay. Talk to you soon. Bye. Absolutely not. Well, obviously, that didn't go too well. I don't think there'll be a second date with Julie, so I need some help again. So joining me to help give me some expert advice is Julie Spherer. She's online dating expert and author of the bestseller, The Perils of Cyber Dating. Julie, what am I doing wrong?
You had your own real-life peril. Wow, too much too fast. Instant relationship. Come on my radio show. I mean, that's a little overwhelming to a woman. Typically, women like to slow the pace down.
Well, I was trying to impress her, Julie. I thought, you know, when I was in rock and roll, if I was dating somebody, I always brought them, you know, backstage or to the show so I could perform. I figured if I put her in there, she could see, you know, I've got a gig, I've got a job. I thought it would work. It obviously didn't.
No, I guess you could have sent her a link to the radio show link, and then she could have sort of eased her way into it. But you scared her. Wow, she's gone. So sorry.
So what do I do now? You know, I've had the one date. I'm talking to a few girls. I stopped winking, by the way. I took your advice. And I also took your advice. I was on time at my last date. Now, I'm not notorious late. I'm terrible at that. So I'm going to try to change my habits here. But, you know, I'm looking for somebody, you know, that special someone, and I am reading the profiles now, you know, for a first date, and it seems like what you do on Match.com is at least in my experience, it's a lot of first dates. What do you do? What's the most important thing on the first date? What should I be looking for?
Well, first of all, get to the pre-date. You've got to get on the phone with somebody after you've sent a few emails back and forth and see if you have any good phone chemistry. Certainly not like the last phone call where Dear Julie just sort of hung up on you. But see if there's some phone chemistry and then schedule your date. Definitely someplace casual. Sure, women love to be impressed with fine dining and things like that, but when somebody goes overboard, it's a little overwhelming. It suffocates us as women. So ease your way into it. Suggest 2 different places and ask her what she prefers. Say, do you prefer coffee or do you like lunch or dinner? And then let her decide what type of date she's the most comfortable with.
Let me ask you this, because we went out to dinner on that first date, and we're sitting at dinner and the bill comes, and she insisted on paying for half the bill.
Oh!
Is that bad?
Girls don't like to go Dutch treat unless they're not into the guy. I am so sorry to give you that bad news.
I'm dying of death here, Julia.
No. She offered to pay. Now, that's very generous. A lot of times women reach for the bill and say, I'd like to pay my half, just to sort of be, you know, very generous and kind. And then the man should always insist and say, no, this is my treat. This is our first date. This is my treat. Because a man really should pay for the first date. What happens after that really depends upon your relationship, and we certainly want you to get to a second date.
One of the things I've noticed on Match.com, and I haven't quite figured this out, why would a girl favorite me? And for the audience, I'm guessing that favorite, well, you explain it. You're the expert.
Okay. When you click on the favorite button next to some cute guy's profile or a woman's profile, it means you've taken a peek and you like what you've seen. You might be too busy to write your email now, and you might want to save it for another day. But it's somebody that you thought enough of that you might want to have a communication with. So if you see that someone has favorited you, the best thing you could do is send them an email, send her an email. Don't say, hey, I just saw you added me to your favorites list, because then she's going to think you're
But Julie, this is what's
stalker.
happening to me. You know, a girl favorited me, because you
Right.
get this little notification that somebody's favorited you. I figure I'm in, all right? I'm in. So I go and favorite her back, and I email her back. And when I go to her profile now, it says this profile is no longer available. I mean, I struck out like before I even did anything.
All right, first of all, if she favorites you, don't favorite her back. Be a man.
Why?
Look at right, because it's sort of a cat and dance. It's this digital love dance, and it's like the winking. I got you off the winking. If someone favorites you, it's basically an invitation to say, I'm going to step forward and write you an email. I'm not going to take this in-between approach and send you a favorite too. It's not really what she wants. She wants to hear from you. But she might have favorited 5 other guys, and she might have found someone that she wanted
that's
to date
terrible.
exclusively.
I mean, if you know, is it like that? Is it do you just go out and favorite everybody? You know, it
Guys
just
do
seems
it
like
all the time.
like a
Guys
dating
do it all the
smorgasbord here. Wow, it looks like I've got a lot to learn, Julie. I think we're going to have you back on the show for
Let's
successive weeks, because I'm going to need a lot of help here. Thanks so much for being with us today. Thanks, Julie.
Thank you.
That, of course, was Julie Spira, online dating expert and author of the bestseller, The Perils of Cyber Dating, Confessions of a Hopeful Romantic. That's unquestionably me. I'm obviously, I'm not doing this right. I don't know what I think about this whole cyber dating thing. It used to be that you met somebody on the street, maybe at a party. Maybe I'm not doing enough of that. I look at this cyber dating thing, and it looks like, I don't know, it's a little bit, I'm going to use the word, it's a little bit like soft porn, I mean, you're sitting there looking at all these pictures, and she looks good, and you click on that, and they're probably doing the same thing, and they like me for a minute, but then I think the danger here is they like you, but then somebody better comes along, and you are out, you're out on your ear. Well, it doesn't look like, it looks like I'm going to need a lot more help. I'm going to go back in, although this time I'm going to look for somebody without a picture. So my expectations will be very, very low when we go out on our first date. Anyway, I've had a great time today. It's been wonderful filling in for Steve. Steve will, of course, be back on Monday. You're listening to the Steve Malzberg Show. I'm David Nelson filling in for Steve today. Thanks for joining. See you next week.